Hey, Fred, how are you, buddy? Darkside's in here. There was a bunch of people that wanted uh, a space started, so we were trying
Can you
to
hear me?
get them. Yeah, there you are. How are you? What do you think of the space today? I only was catching bits and pieces. I take my dog.
It's interesting. I mean, I think all these financial people, like they're too complicated for their own good. They can't just buy Bitcoin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
They got to figure out like basis trading and this and that and blah blah
yeah.
blah. And it's sort of like, buddy,
I know it's
is right
so
under your
complicated.
nose. You got to buy Bitcoin. Okay.
Yeah. Why overcomplicate things?
Well, because humans do that. That's what we
I
do.
know, you're absolutely correct.
We
Yeah.
love to make things much more complicated than they actually are.
Yes.
And,
Um, I was interested in a part that I probably missed and I might have to go back is the OTC thing. Like I'm always intrigued by the over-the-counter stuff, because it's kind of like maybe one of those gray areas. It's not as visible to, the common folk. So what did he really say? Is there anything interesting about the over-the-counter, stuff that was,
well,
actually
he
worth
just said that the
repeating?
entire industry got nuked in 2022, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just sort of like building itself back again. Wayne was one of the bigger counterparties in that market.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
Can you
Mhm.
give us like the Cliff Note version?
The Cliff Notes version is he had a lot of Bitcoin. And so, Genesis was, he lent some of that Bitcoin out to Genesis, so
Oh,
they were constantly borrowing his Bitcoin. I think he got most of it back, but it's just
oh
like,
wow! I hadn't heard
like
that.
he basically had all this Bitcoin, and there's only so many people who have got, I don't know how much Bitcoin he had, but a lot, right? So you know, so and then they complete, and he was, because he's friends with Barry
Oh, Barry Seabird or
Silbert, yeah.
Silbert? Yeah.
Yeah, so they were in,
I
they
don't know if I'd
invested in
claim that
his
at this point in time.
company and everything. So yeah. Anyways, but yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, welcome
Where are
to.
we now? Where is Bitcoin today? I thought it was at 100. Oh, it is back at 100.
It,
Okay, so
yeah, last I
Bitcoin
looked, it
today is
was.
back at 100.
Say what's up to KST, the co-host. How are you?
Good morning. I I would just like to say yesterday I did say that the price was down because it was simply just Tuesday.
The Tuesday Blues
That's what
Day.
it is. That's Andreas Antonopoulos. He said the price is down 6%. A lot of people are like, that's a disaster. But in Bitcoin, that's just Tuesday.
Hey, Fred, I've got a question for you.
Go ahead, Justin.
If there's a simple answer to this, does the law of diminishing returns apply to a finite asset?
Yeah, I think it does. That's a short answer.
Okay. And my follow-up to that, how have you been enjoying Chat GPT Pro, the new level of account with the unlimited access to the newest models?
I mean, I really liked it. I've just been doing a bunch of different experiments with it. I had it write this whole book. I got to check on see where that book is now. If Amazon, I think denied me because my cover wasn't good enough for them. But yeah, no, look, it's very powerful. Look, I think we humans, we have about 2 to 3 more years of useful life left in us. I don't know what we're going to do like 5 years from now, or just play Frisbee all the time, right? I mean, there's nothing we aren't going to be able to do better than these machines.
Fred,
I don't see anything that we can do better. I think maybe math or something, but no.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
I think somebody's trying to speak. I want to buy one of those Tesla robots when Bitcoin hits 200K, that's for sure.
Fred, I have a question. So I have the $20 a month, and it gives you the 0.1 model, is that the model you get, or is it better? Because I get a little bit of the limited 01 model.
No, there's the Pro model, which is $200 a month.
Yeah, but which actual model is it? Because I think that I think they give us a little bit of advanced. It says 01 advanced reasoning. Which one are you using? What is the actual name of it? Do you know?
I think it's
It's
01, but
called
I think the
01
context window
Pro
is like
mode.
4 times bigger.
Oh, it's
It's called
01 Pro.
01 Pro mode.
Okay.
I'm going to show you. I'll put it up in the nest.
Hey, Fred, if you want to jump down the rabbit hole, Google ChatGPT DEF CON 2024, and you'll learn just how insane this thing is.
You want me to go on ChatGPT and look for DEF CON 2024?
No, actually go into Google and you can read. There's a couple of good pieces that have been written on what happened this year at DEF CON 2024.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And you know,
What's
DEF
the
CON 20
TLDR?
for people that don't know, DEF CON is a capture the flag event for the best hackers in the country. Mostly NSA folk, and you got your Carnegie Mellon teams and stuff like that. But it turned into a hack ChatGPT, and it's absolutely. I mean, just to read about it, I can't say much about it, but I encourage everybody to read about it, and it'll scare the living daylights out of you.
I mean, yeah, I totally, this stuff's totally, it's totally happening, right? That's why I think that if you put like projections about Bitcoin in 20 years, I think that everybody's right. Like, I can't even predict what like the world's going to look like 10 years from now. Like, I have no idea, you know. There could be like walking robots that think and do all the jobs that normal humans do in 10 years. Like, anything's possible now.
Fred, I think the one effect that I'm anticipating is the lack of creativity of Chat GPT or of the AI, and I think there's going to be a premium placed on real human creativity because that's missing from that. I mean, to me, it's kind of like I'm a jazz fan. I'm a voracious reader. So if you take and compare music created on computers, maybe by one guy, there's a lot of guys doing that now. It's a little small keyboard with 2 octaves, and everything's created by one guy on a computer. It sounds good, but man, go compare that to live recordings back in the 1950s on vinyl on a hi-fi system where you can hear tinkling of glass. It's spatial. You can hear where it is in the room. You can hear people, maybe conversations. You can hear subtle coughs. You can hear everything the musicians are doing. And to me, that's so much better. And with books, it's like the writing is too perfect and there's something missing. And it pushes me back toward real creative writing, and maybe people who can still do that, or people who can use AI as a writing assistant, but still have the human touch.
Well, I'll tell you an aside. This is a kind of a crazy little aside. I'm reading this biography of Cornelius Vanderbilt right now, and I got to tell you, the Bitcoiners will really appreciate this. So right now we're in 1862, right? Cornelius Vanderbilt is arguably the second richest man around at this point, who's John Jacob Astor, the fur trader, is probably number one still.
Yeah, died on the Titanic.
Yeah, no, that's the fourth. This is his grandson. That's not him. So this is like the grandfather of that guy, right? And so, so now we have the Civil War is happening, right? And in 1862, there's this kind of relatively obscure guy named Spalding, and Spalding comes up with a new innovation. And you haven't heard of this name of this guy, but you have heard of his innovation. It's called fiat. He invents fiat in 1862, and he comes up with this new thing called the greenback. And he says, here's the deal with this greenback. We're going to print these notes, and you can't redeem them, right? You can't redeem them for anything. But they are legal tender, and everybody's like, this is terrible. We already have a dollar that's A dollar is a certain amount of silver, and so and there's a bimetallic kind of conversion to gold. Gold is starting to become much bigger accepted than silver at this point. So, anyways, there's $2 at this point. There's the greenbacks and there's the gold dollars, and there's a premium, right? So there's a trading market between greenbacks and gold dollars, and there's this room called the gold room where these greenbacks trade against the gold dollars, and they trade as the union wins victories, the trade goes down, so it trades closer to 1-to-1. If the South is winning, the spread goes all the way up to 3-to-1. So I thought that was kind of an interesting concept. It was invented right in the middle of the Civil War.
Sorry, guys, I was making a latte. Asteroid and I were making purchases when Bitcoin was hovering around all-time highs, so we were enhancing our lives. Darkside, how are you? We were talking about the space from earlier. What were your takeaways? Did you get any good stuff out of it?
Yeah, I did, and it's per what I expect, right? If you read between the lines and listened to him carefully, he made the point that the ability to delta hedge, complex derivative trades, right, is what makes the asset stable and the marketplace stable. But he also yielded to the fact that if we had some type of dislocation, catalyst driven event where you literally see a seller strike or a supply shock, you could flip the thing off sides. It's my biggest concern that I see facing Bitcoin today is just, some type of event, a catalyst driven event where there's nothing for sale. And we scroll
Yeah,
up $75,000 in 4 minutes. Like we've seen just recently, we've seen a couple downside moves, right? 5-minute candles where we flushed $3,000. Imagine those moves are clearly liquidity driven, right? Like liquidity events where they're deleveraging and running stop orders. But imagine that to the upside. That we haven't seen. And that's
But
where
why do you think that that's such a likely thing? I mean, most Bitcoin is held in private wallets. It's not held in ETFs or anything else. It's held just by people like us.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. Like, you think there'll be none of us who would be interested in selling? I disagree.
you won't have time. So let's just say we're trading at 100,000 right now, and something hits the tape. Saudi Arabia is going to trade oil in Bitcoin only. Just take that one headline, right? And all of a sudden, somebody puts 150,000 bid for 100,000 or 150,000 Bitcoin and just wipes out the order book. So now we just went from 100,000 to 150,000 in basically 10 seconds. Right. And
So we have a wick up. Is that what you're saying? But
yeah, but a super wick, like a god candle wick.
okay,
right?
so let's say you have a God wick. I mean, if the market right now is $1 million bid on Bitcoin,
Mhm.
I got some Bitcoin immediately for sale. And by the way, I don't need a long time to sell that Bitcoin. By the way,
No,
I mean,
again,
I can move that Bitcoin really quickly.
right.
So,
No, it's going to work for you. The problem is that the derivatives guys that were anticipating the ability to hedge their short exposure, their leveraged short call exposure, don't get the opportunity to buy at 105, 107, 110 the way the models work. Right? It's like what happens when
right.
models
So what? I mean, these guys get wrecked. So
they
what?
get wrecked, right? Well, the question is how big is the wrecking, and who, is it systemic to the point that it takes down the CME as an example?
Now you
Right?
got to look at the counterparty risk across the whole
Yeah,
world.
that's where I'm going with it. Is that this thing could spiral out of control very quickly, and again, there's nowhere they can go to print more Bitcoin. Right, more Bitcoin will come for sale. I agree completely, Fred. There's going to be Bitcoin for sale. The problem is if the buy orders are 100x the sell orders, right, for whatever purpose, right, and we don't know what that event we can't probably in our mind envision what the event is, or multiple events that all happen simultaneously. But my point is that whether we're talking about Brendan at two prime or him at front, or Goldman Sachs or Jane Street, or there's guys doing these Bitcoin yield products. It's way more pervasive than we think. And what happens to a Bitcoin yield product when the price doubles in 10 minutes is your Bitcoin is gone, right? You no longer have Bitcoin. You now have you got your yield and now you lost your Bitcoin, right? So that's the dislocation that happens. And then the entire market begins to, turn into a
Wait,
counterparty
wait.
debacle.
Okay, so first of all, very little of this is Bitcoin yield. I mean, it's borrowing against Bitcoin. It's not the same thing.
There's all kinds of things going on that we can't even fathom at
I
this
just
point.
don't think there's a lot of Bitcoin yield products. I mean, I'm not even aware of any really. I mean, okay, this two prime might have a little bit, but like, I mean, so I'm going to give my Bitcoin to somebody else. They're going to give me 5% more in Bitcoin for that.
No,
You know,
they're offering, there's trading desks and hedge funds and alike that are offering much, much higher yields just based
sure.
on
I
the
mean, I think they
volatility.
said they were offering 10%, but like, I'm just saying, how much of that is there relative to the market cap of Bitcoin? It's tiny. It's a very small percentage.
Yeah, as far as structured products, but as far as traders and desks and leverage desks that are putting on Bitcoin yield trades, right? They get blown out. They get blown out, right? A great example is just long Bitcoin, short out of the money MicroStrategy calls, right? And you're just continuing to play that yield trade. That's a yield trade, right? That gets blown out. And
Hey,
along with that getting blown out is the levered fund that has that on gets blown out. And then the systemic risk just begins to spiral.
Darkside, let me jump in and make you comment or have you comment on two distinct scenarios for this to happen. One is, as you mentioned, an announcement like Saudi on oil trade only in Bitcoin. That's an event driven God candle that may only have temporal effects. It may spike it up, but I would expect in that scenario for highly reactive traders to get in the trade, and then if there's nothing behind it, it comes back down quickly. So it's up and down. The other scenario is a systemic purchase where, let's use Apple as an example. Microsoft rejected the Bitcoin treasury, but Apple. Imagine Apple says, there's a first mover advantage here. If we do it and smash by some god awful amount, let's say 10 billion, um, it will be expensive. We'll drive the price up. It'll be inefficient for our purchase until someone follows us, and they will follow us, and we'll get all of our money back within 6 to 12 months, and then some. So that's a slightly different scenario than an event-driven one where everyone rushes to the trade, versus one that's a systemic rise up where you have basically you have support for the higher prices. So I don't think you have support in an event-driven scenario. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's going at some point something is going to happen, right? Like that's the first rule of markets. Like something crazy is going to happen. The Apple example I think is less likely. I think the more likely event, you could talk about, instead of Saudis, you could talk about OPEC. How about this one? We wake up on a Sunday morning to find out that UBS has failed, and the DTCC can't figure out the counterparty exposure of all the derivatives, and there's going to be a bank holiday on Monday morning, right? Until we figure out like where this all lies out and who stands where, right? And Credit Agricole has probably failed in Deutsche Bank. So three massive European commercial banks have failed over a weekend, right? For whatever reason. Now what? Right? The banks aren't open. There's going to be a massive attempt to get your money into Bitcoin. Like an event like that could cause chaos in the Bitcoin market. There's just so many different events, right, that we can't foresee. what that event is. But the one thing we do know is that as long as there's been markets, events happen that break those markets, right? Like that's just like, it's this thing that, like, the study of the 100-year flood that seems to happen every 12 years, right? Like third sigma, fourth sigma, fifth sigma events happen, and they happen way more frequently than they should happen given their probability distribution. So I'm just in the camp that at some point something's going to break, something's going to happen, and again, unlike these sharp moves down, which the market can absorb no problem, the sharp move up, right, is not in the models. It breaks the models, and then we have all kinds of problems.
Do you see in a global calamity like we just saw
So,
these reports?
so,
Uh,
sorry, I got a phone call.
yeah, do you see in a global calamity like the Bitcoin has not been necessarily at least up to the first part of the year hasn't been a flight to safety. Um, it's had this weird characteristic where it's a store of value on one hand, but it's also when it's risk off, there's a capital rotation out of the asset class. Do you think that changes next year or soon enough so that if there's a global conflict, a war of some sort, that the money flows into that, or does it move to the traditional ones like gold and treasury bonds?
So again, two different catastrophic events. I mean, you could talk about like a World War, nuclear bomb type event. I think that's a very different event than some type of systemic banking crisis, where the heartbeat of the event is the failing of the currency or the debt, right? Like where the ability to repay debt becomes into question,
Yeah,
and that's where.
the flights to safety are shut down.
Right. I mean, your access to capital begins to, like, just imagine, like, you get that announcement on a Sunday coming out of Europe, and what every hedge fund in the world would be trying to get their money out of banks and into Bitcoin, right? You can't really buy gold in that scenario. That's not, it's going to be very difficult, but you will be able to buy Bitcoin on some exchange somewhere in the world. And that's where you end up in this crazy, potential dislocation.
Couldn't it even be more simple than that, where increased demand meets a ever increasing to the point of it's going to be extremely difficult to even procure coins because nobody wants to sell them? Like, wouldn't just something that simple cause some of these crazy moves as well?
Yeah, I'm in the camp that we can't foresee. I mean, we could speculate, we could sit here all day and speculate on what could cause it. Something's going to cause this complex to break. It always does, 100% of the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Something happens, right? Like Fifth Sigma events happen.
Yeah, and it was interesting to hear Joe's take because he's like, well, there's a price. Like, I would sell a coin for $1 million, but in these scenarios, there would be a time frame similar to when, shit goes down in the traditional system. It can take a player out for a week or more. Like there would be a time frame to actually try to connect all these buyers and sellers again. It's not going to happen instantaneously. So these kind of shocks could, cause the candles you guys are describing that Samson Mao refers to as the God candle, the parabolic face melting candle. So it's going to be interesting to watch unfold.
I couldn't even get I'm thinking about my own personal situation, right? The first thing I would do in Darkside scenario is I would pull all the residual, Bitcoin that I have on Coinbase or River or whatever. I'd just pull that right off. I can do that, no problem, probably.
But Puncher, Coinbase is going to freeze up. They're going to
Well,
say, "Oh, shoot, sorry, didn't do
no,
anything here,
no,
guys."
I'm going to
What
do it like
Bitcoin?
right away. Hopefully, I'll be the first one to do it, and whatever. And then I'm going to pull
That
money
time
out
is
of my
now, my
bank.
friend.
Well, I'm going to pull money out. I know, but I don't have that much on there. A couple 10 grand or whatever. But then I'm going to pull. I'm going to try to ACH money out of my bank, but that's got a cap on it. It means like 3% of what I could get out. That's it. If you do an online banking transfer, I think I'm capped at 100 grand. So now I'm frozen, even though I think I'm ahead of the curve. I'm I'm screwed too.
Puncher, you could always buy gold. Take that to, I mean, it depends how much you're talking about, but like, I think it's over 10K that they need to prepare the form. But yeah, theoretically, someone could buy I don't know, 300 ounces of gold. I don't know where you live, but at least here in LA, it's a pretty liquid market. You could,
Not in
you,
this event.
Not on a Sunday.
Yeah, it freezes.
on a Sunday. Sorry, I missed the
This
weekend
whole
part.
thing would freeze up. The Western banking systems would be shut down. Coinbase would be basically shut down because there's no access to funds. And what would happen is money that's in the Cayman Islands, money that's in Hong Kong, money that's in Singapore, money that's outside of the Western banking structure would explode Bitcoin as we all sat by and just looked at it and said, wow, wow.
So you're
That's
talking on a weekend?
Yeah.
Got it.
Typically
Darkside,
when this stuff happens, by the way.
imagine that BRICS has
And the
adopted
other thing
Bitcoin
is,
as a
like Fred
currency.
said, I would sell it. If it went to 150, I'd be selling. Well, in that scenario, I sure as shit wouldn't be selling for any number.
Sure as shit. Hey, Puncher, did you hear Justin? I'm assuming you didn't hear him. You guys were talking at the same time.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Do you want me to drop? I can drop down.
Yeah, let's recycle you. Sorry, Justin. Go ahead and make your point.
Yeah, I was going to say, Darkside, imagine the effect of that this happens after BRICS has exited the Western finance system and has adopted Bitcoin as its currency.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I'm going to just go back to like the 50-mile, flyover view. We have a market where we have a lot of people trading inside the for standard deviation because that's the way it's always worked, right? It's always worked where this thing's been very liquid and you can get in, you can get out, and you can delta hedge and you can get yourself positioned. Even, we get volatile moves, but nothing like what we're talking about, right? And if something happens like we're talking about, the derivatives complex will completely break.
That creates cascading liquidity issues across the regular banking system.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. I
so
mean,
talk about Rule 38.
Oh boy, here we go. Thomas, you want to kind of give people the...
Yeah, I mean, I posted this. I mean, it was largely at your prompting. I went and researched it. This is a rule change that happened in 2018. SEC rule change. You can go read it. It's a pin to my post on my feed, so you can see it. They changed the rules. It's not a legislative change; it's a SEC regulation, so it's unclear how it will have an effect. But in the meantime, there's really no objectors to it right now, so it'll have the effect of law. But basically, assets held by the DTCC, you are potentially subordinated in your asset claims in a major event. The major event has to be defined. And they could use your assets hypothetically. They don't say it explicitly, but hypothetically, they could use it to recapitalize the system. That is the concern. I don't think it's a slam dunk that happens. I just think you need to think about uh, your assets held by someone else is their liability. And so it really is the argument to have. I mean, people are going to have money in institutions, and that's just the reality of it. But you have to have a decent amount in sovereign custody. Otherwise, you might find yourself to be very sad.
Yeah, just to clarify that, the rule 38 and the way the DTCC has been restructured is such that it's not your claim. You don't have a claim at the DTCC. You have a claim at Charles Schwab or E-Trade or Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley has the claim at the DTCC,
The,
right? So
the term,
you're not even in the chain at that point,
I
right?
think the term is
These are
subrogation. You're
I'm
right.
sorry.
The term is subrogation. It's a term in insurance,
Hmm.
but your rights are subrogated through Schwab or Fidelity at DTCC.
Right.
This
Right.
is the
Like,
great taking, right? This is the great taking.
yeah, it's part of it. Definitely part of it. But it has been enshrined in, like, the one thing that David Webb does very well is short of just turning this into a conspiracy theory. He actually walks you through in the Great Taking. It's not just Rule 38. There was also different mechanical um, procedures that have been put in place to put the derivatives complex into this sort of network of financial risks and clearing firms, such that, like, if we have a derivatives explosion or implosion, right, that this all plays into the same pool of capital that they have access to claim. So it's not just, look, let me say this: the day they approved the ETFs was the day I said, oh, I get it. Like, I absolutely, not for 2 seconds didn't I immediately go directly to the Great Taking.
So you think it's purposeful, dark side? Like it's not just a happenstance of different regulations and rules put in place. You think this has got nefarious actors behind it?
100%. And just to bolster that point, it remember that the ETFs were approved and MicroStrategy is being, allowed to do all of their acquiring of Bitcoin at the exact same time as Choke Point 2.0 was going after Wayne and his buddies and Silvergate Bank and anybody else who was doing things that weren't part of the kind of this custody system that they've set up. Right? Like,
So are you
it's
saying that MSTR might have a handshake deal with the deep state?
they don't need to have a handshake deal, right? MSTR and any other public company is regulated by the deep state, so they don't need to have a deal.
Well, that's my point, though. Like,
So by
Sailor is being
extension,
allowed to do this.
Larry Fink, okay, I can believe that. Michael Saylor is a bad actor? Has to be.
No, again, right? So no, he's not a bad actor, right? Like, he's got a thing and he's doing his thing. But if you
Oh, they
believe,
just
like,
allowed him to do it.
Puncher, you're
They
smart
just
enough to know Michael Saylor didn't get to where he is without direct touch points with the deep state at almost every level. Like, when he came out, what it was about a month or two ago, and started railing against self custody, right? Just think about that. Like, where'd that come from?
no, I get that, but on the one hand, we're saying he's not a bad actor, but on the other hand, he is acting in concert with these deep state,
Yeah,
folks.
yeah,
So
Puncher.
how does he escape being a bad actor with
I'm not.
understanding what
I'm kind of saying he might
may
be.
come our way here? I don't see how I don't see how he escapes being kind of colluding with them
World's not
in this
black
way.
and white.
I know that.
Yeah.
He has
Puncher,
he has a passion
if
to
I had to
benefit.
answer your question directly, I'll say, okay, fine, he's a bad actor. But they're all bad actors, right? Like, you don't get to that position of wealth and power without direct touch points with the bad actors in the deep state.
I would say I don't know him, so I wouldn't say he's a bad actor, a good actor. What I would say is that I would be shocked if he didn't compromise certain things to achieve his passion goals that he has stated over and over again. So in order to get there, you have to, and it's true for everybody, it rises in power. You have to make compromises or you don't stay or get into power in the first place.
He called us crazy crypto anarchists
Well,
for
just
wanting to
as an
self cust.
aside, like there's an agency inside the military. It's called DIUX, and a buddy of mine basically ran it. He was pulled in by Mad Dog Mattis back in the day, and they went up to Silicon Valley and they wrote non-dilutive checks to startups. So he was like the most popular guy in the world. But it came with conditions, right? We're going to write another. You can't do business with the Chinese, and we're going to write a couple lines of code in your shit just in case. So right there, like that tells me. And again, no one ever thought it was anything wrong. You're like, I'm doing my patriotic duty, and I get this non-dilutive, so I get to live another day as a startup. And what the heck, I'm a patriotic American, so whatever. Those little things, they don't seem like very bad things at the time, but they do compromise you. They're not doing it for no reason.
Michael Saylor cares about Michael Saylor.
Yeah, I also think, I mean, let's just not paint him as being evil, right? Like, I think he believes that Bitcoin will save the US financial system. Like, he believes that. How would, and I mean, I think he probably, look, in the Guy Adami interview, which was a few nights ago, the last question in the interview was about eminent domain, right? Like, could you see a scenario in which, and his answer was kind of telling, right? Like, well, that would be communism, but it would be against property rights, blah 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 blah, right? Like, we get it. But the fact that Guy Adami's asking him the question kind of lets you know that the people that know, right? Like, you just know how this is going to play out at some point.
Well, Darkside, I mean, Lutnick, I keep mentioning this, but Lutnick in an interview with Pomp, like, talked about nationalizing our defense companies, right? Like this is not like things are, this is not like the typical Republican Party that we're all used to. W. Bush or Clinton, right? This neoliberal, like we're in totally new ballgame. We're playing a totally different game than most people are, I think, aware of.
It sounds like you
But
guys
but
are
are
just
these things
ripping
coming
Uncle Mike
about as a result of everyone
Hunter.
realizing that this current system is unsustainable and the game plan is being put in place? The chess pieces are being put in place so that when there's an exigent event, that we are prepared to move to whatever the next system looks like. It's hard to square the corner here, in my mind, anyway.
I
Just
think it's
more
super
memes.
telling that he, railed against self-custody, that he's talking about being a Bitcoin bank, right? Like the other telling interview, there's a number that I could go through, but one of them being like his interview with Saifedean, or I guess you could call it a debate. Another one that I think would be relevant to the people listening who might be invested in MSTR is he just did one with Scott Galloway, where he talks. They press him a little bit on downsides, right? Like what are the downside risks? Saylor did his typical thing where he goes on and on about how it's an infinite money glitch, right? And they start to press him like, what, there's got to be downside risks, and he basically goes, yeah, to the equity holders. It's like, wait, who is that? Who are the equity holders? It's the normal people, the people in these spaces. Who are the convertible bond holders? It's Wall Street. So his approach to like the risk of like the flippant way that he said, oh yeah, well, like the equity holders might get wiped out, but the convertible bond guys, they'll be all right. It's like you can tell where his mind is focused. And
Infra.
Yeah. Yeah, what's up?
That sounded like an asteroid because he usually speaks from the bathroom, and then
How am I in the
asteroid.
bathroom? I'm in my office on the telephone. Give me a break.
Sure. Yeah,
I just got this whole professional mic stuff. I should hook it up.
you
I got a
should.
broadcast mic and a Rode Caster Duo, so I'll hook it up.
Congratulations. It sounds like you
Wash
guys
your
are beating
hands,
up
brother.
my Uncle Mike here, and I don't like it. Now I'm
What
nervous and I'm thinking about selling my MicroStrategy in my 401k plan.
I
I
mean,
wouldn't say I'm going to sell it infra. Do you think there's more go? I do. Let me tell you the truth. I do get the feeling that there's a lot more going on just from his vibe, and it's kind of weird. But
yeah,
but
yeah,
what
that's
is
what
it?
I'm.
What do you suspect? What do you suspect's going on? Just be honest.
I don't know. I personally think that he's like, it's all speculation, and I don't know. But what I think is that he's already made some kind of tacit deal with the true deep state. I'm not talking, a Trump admin, politician. I'm talking the true deep state. I mean, remember, his headquarters are 5.8 miles away. It's like right
Yeah,
down the street
I
from the
know it's in
CIA.
Tyson's Corner. I'm well aware.
So like, yeah, if I had to guess, it would be that there's already a plan to essentially make MicroStrategy in the dislocative event, in the exigent event, that he's already pre-positioned to be the next JP Morgan, right? Like to be the next
So you mean
BlackRock, like
the lender of last resort, like.
in a way, yeah, just like I mean,
What,
look at past financial crises. Look at
but what
go
would that
back
be?
200
What would
years.
that be in Bitcoin terms, though? Like Bitcoin context?
You mean Bitcoin price?
No, what would it mean in the Bitcoin context about the lender of last resort? Like instead of lending out, what the hell is
Well,
lending at that time? You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, if he owns 1 million Bitcoin, then you don't even really need to lend. I think that Michael Saylor's opinion, like the Saifedean interview that I mentioned, that is really interesting in terms of lending and his approach to the banks and his approach to being a Bitcoin bank and the need for lending, which I think is illuminative. But yeah, no, I mean, if you have 1 million Bitcoin and the USD price of Bitcoin is, say, I don't know, 2, 3,
But
4,
what would
5
be the
million.
reason you need to lend it? That's what no one's just going to want it, right? Like they're going to have to need for it for some particular event that occurs.
Well, no, it is capital. It is value, just like a vault full of 260 million ounces of gold. Except it's
So what you're saying is that you're saying that the Federal Reserve just inflating the supply of money at that time won't work anymore, right?
well, yeah. I mean, they know that there are limits to the reserve currency keeping a bid under the dollar. Those limits are clearly fading. The more time that goes on, the less foreign nations are willing to put their foreign reserves in treasuries. Like treasury demand for foreigners, the big players that actually matter, has been declining since 2015, but it's really accelerated. So they know that like this whole we can do whatever we want, print as much debt, print as much money, like no big deal, we're the reserve currency. There are limits to that. And I think that the policymakers and the smart people understand that, like, we are rapidly approaching that point in time where there will come a point, no one knows where it is, right? Like, I don't
They've
know
been
if it's,
saying that for 2 decades, though. That's the thing.
but
You know
that
what I mean?
doesn't that yeah but I mean that doesn't, like, in the 90s, debt to GDP was like, you can't, like, you can't take, oh well, Ross Perot said this in 95 and nothing happened. It's like, okay, but like, it's a totally different situation that we find ourselves in today.
It means we're 30 years closer to it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, I mean, if you have 1 million Bitcoin and Bitcoin is at 5 million a coin or something, you essentially, and if you've already made the deal, you, in your domestically owned company, public, I think there's a point in time where it's no longer publicly owned, but it just gets nationalized. Boom. And then you take and then those million Bitcoin become the United States, essentially balance sheet item on the asset side,
Why would
and
he make
boom,
that deal, though? He's going to be like, look, yeah, take my company.
power, money, right? How cool
So
would it be to be?
He doesn't need any more money.
why do you
You
think
can hear.
Microsoft, given all of this, why do you think Microsoft would make such a poor decision in acquiring Bitcoin?
Well, yeah, I mean, Microsoft is a bunch of like, the way I look at it, Microsoft is just like a bunch of NPC boomers run by NPC boomers.
Bingo.
Like, I don't really put, like, you listen objectively to Michael Saylor, and you can tell that he wants nothing more than to be the JP Morgan.
I honestly
Don't.
agree. When he had that interview with Saifedean, I felt it in my
Yep.
gut that something had
Yep.
happened. I was
Yep.
like,
Yep.
oh,
So
fuck.
do you guys think that I should tear up my invitation to Michael Saylor's 100K party and throw it into the trash?
No, man,
No.
I want to hang out with you
Okay.
when you're there. We're all going to
Okay.
hang out. So go. I'm going. You're
Take
going too.
advantage of
Darkside,
it.
I will do that. Darkside, I see
Yeah. So
you're off of mute.
so
Go ahead.
interesting. Like let me take a little bit of a dark side approach.
Pun
befitting.
intended.
Damn it.
No pun intended. But I would say that Microsoft, if they would have adopted this, right, that's akin to the US government adopting the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And it makes it more difficult for this stealth acquisition that's occurring right now through the ETFs and through Michael Saylor. But I think they have, like, in my dark side view, I think they have a plan, and they're following their strategy, and they're stealth acquiring. What I think they're aiming for a 25% position. I think Saylor said that himself in that interview. He said, if the U.S. government had a 25% ownership of the network, right, they could recapitalize the dollar with that position.
I mean, I
So
put it in the nest. I put my little kind of thought exercise in the nest. Like, it's gotten quite a few views, and no one has given me, a coherent steelman or right, like, criticism. Like, I think
Where is this? I
I
don't
just
see it
put
in
it in the
this.
nest. Just to, just I could be
Oh, okay.
wrong. Like, I'm not saying this with 100% certainty. It's just what my gut is telling me. It's just what all the red flags that I've been kind of feeling and trying to, like, subtly bring up. But I know how passionate people are about MSTR, so I've been trying to be delicate about it. Like,
I
it. I'd be curious. I want to hear, like, what is the counter, like, I want to hear, like, a thoughtful, coherent counter. So I don't want it to be
I
true.
will read it. My counter is I'm going to be scaling out of a lot of it as we extremely just rip higher anyways. So it's not Bitcoin to me. That would be my counter. I'll hold on to some of it, but I'll convert a lot of that to cold storage and other assets over the next year or two. But yeah, with his change in demeanor, I don't feel that comfortable holding it forever.
This is one we got to get back to inner
I was kind of
circle.
thinking at the time,
Welcome
why
to
didn't
the
he just,
stage, Pubby.
walking on
Hey,
eggshells, a
Puncher.
delicate balance
Can,
between
Puncher,
regulators
did
and
you
what he's
hear?
trying to
Did you
do.
hear Pubby?
This is a whole nother.
Maybe we might have to recycle you again. Pubby, how are you? Hopefully you've got a beer in front of you.
Sorry, somebody speaking.
Yeah, Pubby. Go
No,
ahead.
all good. No,
Are
this
you
is
on
just
number
great.
one? Or are you on number two? That's what we want to know.
Number one.
Okay,
Number
cool.
one.
Go
It's
ahead.
only
You may
two
speak
forty
now.
three. Okay,
Right.
so this takes me back. One thing, if you're new here listening, and you'll hear people talk about slaying your heroes, and I've always told everyone, do not have heroes. Do not have any heroes. I don't care if you think they're your best friend here. I don't care if they have a lovely voice like KST. She seems like she's nice and innocent, but no, she's probably a shitcoin and we don't know it. No,
She's
No,
seriously.
not.
she's
Are
not.
you a shitcoiner?
Hubby,
She's lovely.
how dare you?
Wonderful.
KSD.
No,
Shame to you.
my point is this: with
That's the
Sailor,
S in KST.
Sailor is interesting in me, and
Hubby,
from the
I just have to
beginning,
interrupt you
yeah,
real quick, and
yep,
I have to say
Please
that the
do.
stage can be very very slippery. So
Yeah, and she's a
yeah,
co-host, so she can
dude,
mute
I
boost.
used to have Udi on my show back in the day. That's how. Yeah, don't have heroes. Nick was on our show. These people that then they go to the dark side. I don't trust anyone, man. I
Hey,
love
hey, hey.
y'all. I don't trust
Please
you
be
all.
careful when you say dark side and what context you use dark side. I have a
So
hey,
lot of
wait a
heroes.
minute,
so
You
wait a
guys are
minute.
so here
you guys
so
are
here's
slaughtering my opinion of Mr. Sailor. I still give
so
him a lot of cred. And I just want to point out one more of my heroes. I'll just allude to him. Shirtless, muscular, handsome fella. And I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, puppy. Sorry.
yeah, no.
Oh,
So
shucks, Lauren.
I got
Thanks,
I
man.
got and here's the thing,
There.
when Sailor burst on the scene, I will give him two things of credit. He burst on the scene. It was August of what, 2020. He just he does he. I feel like I've known the guy for 50 years. He's only been here for over just one halving, but when he came on the scene, the first thing he said was he's coming out of the pandemic. He had time to revisit Bitcoin because remember there's an old tweet I think from 2013. He was sort of bagging on it, but he did the research and said, "My money, my cash, is on a melting ice cube." So his entire foray into Bitcoin was to preserve his wealth. He wasn't really in here just like, yeah, fuck the government. I want this value outside. He just saw Bitcoin as a speculative asset to protect his money. So I'll give him
Yeah,
credit for that.
and
That's all he ever promised, right?
Publard, I wanna put it in context, just to the final bit of tinfoil. What happened towards the end of 2019? The repo market, it blew up, and most people still don't, to this day, still don't even know that we came inches away from a financial catastrophe that would have been orders of magnitude worse than '08. And so like the repo market failed in what, September 2019, October 2019. The repo rate spiked 500 basis points in like a single day. It is the reason that happened was there was not enough liquidity in the system. What is kind of the logical, like, as Bitcoiners, what is our logical conclusion? Like, what is, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was the context. And so then you have this domestic company kind of burst onto the scene within 6 months and start doing this fancy financial engineering to stack. Like, it's very possible that it was arranged even prior to, right? Like, they clearly understand with the repo rate catastrophe, like that clearly scared them, you know. Like, I would be shocked if they didn't make some kind of deal, didn't make some kind of plan for, like, holy shit, we were so low on liquidity, like the entire system almost came down. Like, something is clearly broken. We can't continue on like this. We got to figure something out. I mean, maybe it's a coincidence that MicroStrategy started all the fancy financial engineering 6 months later, but I don't know.
You're
Yeah, I
saying
was
the
going to ask
government
you
can be
about the date.
creative? I've never seen them come up with anything creative. I
Well,
will say,
remember, and
I will say also, you got to take public figures at face value if if they speak a lot, right? Because you got to figure a certain percentage of their words might slip a little bit. If they're speaking so many words, people like Elon, people like Michael Saylor. So you will be able to see if they have a hidden agenda. And furthermore, if you take someone like Michael Saylor, the guy's put his money where his mouth is. He's taken 3 pivots here, right? More recently, he's started to take these loans with convertible debt, right, and equity deals, and he wasn't aware this was going to work out this way. So I commend the courage. He's not a hero, but I've had a few interactions with him, and he's a good guy. But who knows what kind of person he is? But I will say that I commend his courage and being willing to put it all on the line for something he seems to be genuinely aligned with. And he might have a couple words out of line, about self custody or whatever. But you got to take the whole pie. You can't just find the 0.01% of words that misalign with our goals here.
I'll land a plane with this because that was my second point. He has been upfront with one, why he came here was protect his wealth with Bitcoin. Number two, for 4 years, he has announced every purchase that they were going to do. And I don't know how many, maybe Infra knows, like, I'm not sure. I think it was a good year or two before he came up with this strategy of the convertible bonds. I don't know. However, he has announced every purchase. You guys can debate. I don't know what his storage habits are, if indeed he's got over 400,000 Bitcoin on Coinbase. I don't know all that. But what started out as being upfront, who knows anymore? All I do know is what's in my control, and that's just the stack and self custody. And I'll land a plane there, man. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Well,
you.
none of that's incongruent with what Darkside was saying. I mean, I'm trying to square it in my head, and I'm trying to come up with what I really believe. But just because he's transparent and just because he's shifted tactics, I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't mean that what Darkside is postulating isn't true
Hey, and
also.
it also doesn't mean it's not a massive wealth generation vehicle for the next 12 to 18 months. Infra, I think you've been looking for a
Me
reason
too.
to not be in this trade for the last month.
No, I don't disagree. Like, the share price could go up. It could go up a lot. I've been trying to get, like, conviction enough to buy it, but I just can't.
Well, hey, here's just a quick data point for you that contrasts something you said earlier. the majority of common stock ownership in MSTR is institutional. It's just pulled it back up. It's looks like it's floating around 59-60% right now, which is down from where I saw it last I looked, around 70.
Yeah, to that point,
It's not going to be.
BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street make up a big piece of that.
Hey,
Yeah, but
Darkside, you don't
Yes.
trade anymore, do you? Darkside?
Um, I'll say no, but I do own
Okay, yeah,
I do own MicroStrategy, but only in trapped capital. Okay,
right.
so
Yeah,
that
me too.
that's it.
But that's
I
where I'm thinking of taking the hit and then just going self custody. So I'm just trying to figure out a strategy to do that. But it seems like, I mean, I think we'd be foolish to not like rule out any of these things as possibilities. I mean, study history, study other countries. Socializing losses is definitely a thing. There's ways that governments all around the world have stolen from their citizens, and it's happened here. So I really think we should be ready for it. But then again, don't miss out on an opportunity. Omar is saying he can vouch for Michael Saylor because he knows him personally. So I was just curious to see if he could. Omar,
Yes,
can you give
sir.
us any story on, like
So,
you said?
so,
Go ahead.
so here is the thing. I'm always here, guys, in your spaces, and I want to thank you guys for everything you do for, for the community. Um, I I usually don't like to speak, but here I've been hearing a lot of things about Michael Saylor, and I have been in Bitcoin way before Michael, and I've had conversations with him for years and years, and he's always been anti Bitcoin until we all know what happened a few years ago. But I heard KST make a comment, and everyone has the right to assume whatever they want to assume, but and to based on because of where he is today, yeah, it's normal to make assumptions. But I do not, I'm sorry, guys. I personally am not okay with someone saying Michael Saylor will only, or Michael Saylor only cares about Michael Saylor. I'm from DC. I mean, you can laugh. It's okay. But I've known the guy since 2002, and the guy has done a lot for the city of Washington. He's done a lot for his community. He at MicroStrategy, every single one of the people that you might meet that work at MicroStrategy will tell you that he's a man who has always had a great relationship with his employees, and he has always gone out of his way to educate them and train them rather than firing them. um, Michael is a fun guy that likes to go out. He's a guy that likes to go clubbing in DC. He's friends with half the owners of the nightclubs in Washington DC. And every time he goes out, he takes care of everybody. He's kind.
Hey,
He's
Omar, can you get
yeah.
me on that list, please? I think I would be an excellent wingman.
I
I,
can vouch.
you
I can vouch for Lauren as a wingman.
Are we
Thank
going
you,
I,
sir.
today? Are we going
I,
clubbing tonight?
LFG, baby. I'm
I mean,
down.
you'll find him at Abigail or at St. Eve's every Friday, Saturday here in DC or in Miami. He's always out with his friend Bill, who owns a company called MC Dean, who owns a house in Miami, and they're always out partying. And they're just great people, man. They're not part of the establishment. They're people who went to school. They're people that are very smart, and they're people that love to help people. They're
Hey,
not.
Omar,
Yeah,
I just want to interject and say I appreciate, you being able to personally vouch for Michael because I think a lot of us are just, speaking hypothetically and stuff. So definitely somebody that can personally vouch has some credibility. So I think it's awesome, and I definitely want to be prepared for any outcome. And it's not that I don't trust Michael; it's more that I don't trust the United States government and whatnot. So I'm loving what you're saying. So I just wanted
I
to,
don't I don't do either. I don't do either, and you're
yeah.
100% right. And I just want to give you guys a little story. Speaking of nightclubs, Michael Saylor, one of his closest friend in Washington D.C. His name is David, and he has a partner whose name is Kijan. They're originally from Korea, and they own a club on K Street. And Kijan, one of the partners of the club, who knows Michael very well, is a big Bitcoin guy. He's been in Bitcoin since 2013, and this guy has been trying to get Michael into personally investing into Bitcoin for years and years and years. And Michael used to mess with the guy and he used to play with him and make fun of him because of Bitcoin until he eventually changed his mind and he was the very first guy that he called, and I was in those conversations until he changed his mind and he called him and he apologized. He's a man who's very, very honest. He's very honest, very straightforward, and he's never, he's always okay saying it when he's wrong, and he will remember being wrong with you in a conversation from 10 years ago, and will come back and apologize and say, hey, you were right, I was wrong, no matter how. And he's a very smart guy. He went to MIT. He's a guy that has never wanted to even be involved in local politics in DC or in Northern Virginia. He's a guy who's known for not even wanting to donate to local politicians because of the liberal climate in DC and how messed up I'm sure you guys know our city is. So he's not a government guy. He's not into that stuff. So, anyways, but I want to thank you guys for everything you do. I love listening to you guys. I'm here every day listening to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Omar. Hey, are you in that picture with Michael Saylor that
Yes,
you
I'm on
posted?
the left. Yes, this was actually taken
That
a
was
few
my
days
guess.
ago during Art Basel in Building's house in
Nice.
Miami. Yeah.
Is that the 100K party?
No, no, no,
No,
no.
no,
It's
not yet.
it's it's a party that was hosted by another wealthy man, very wealthy man, who is not into Bitcoin. Unfortunately, he's another man from Tyson's Corner, Virginia, who owns a company called MC Dean. The owner of the company, I mean, his name is Bill Dean. He's also from, like I said, from Northern Virginia and Washington D.C. So he bought a house down in Miami about 6 7 years ago, and now he splits time between Miami and in DC, and he's good friends with Michael. He hosts a lot of good parties, so he's getting engaged. He got engaged, and he hosted the party at Art Basel, but it had nothing to do with Bitcoin.
Omar, how well do you know him? Can you get him on this space sometime?
Who are we talking about, Bill?
We'll talk about Michael. Well, Bill, shit, we'll take any
Oh,
of
let's
them.
get Bill. Oh,
Let's get Bill.
we
We're
got to
gonna
get
get Bill.
Bill.
Yeah, he's Bill would be a good. I'm sure Michael has tried to orange pill him quite a few times. I mean, the good thing about Bill is he owns another multi-billion-dollar company, like I said, and it's not a publicly traded company, so the decision would pretty much be his, to plug Bitcoin into
Yeah.
their balance
Hey,
sheet. But
Omar, what
yeah.
about yourself? What can you tell us about yourself that you feel comfortable sharing with this group?
Well, I'm a Bitcoin maxi. I have over 100% exposure into Bitcoin. I have literally sold a couple of properties between 2017 2019 and converted everything into Bitcoin.
Cold
I'm here.
storage
Yeah,
or
cold storage,
combination?
casa,
Oh,
on
that a boy.
chain mostly.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good.
couple of
Good job.
I've even gotten a couple of loans to get some more Bitcoin, and I'm here forever, guys. I'm here with you guys forever. Yeah.
That's awesome,
Oh,
Omar.
Love to hear
Omar,
it.
I'm bringing the best bagels you ever eat to DC next year,
Anytime you
buddy.
guys are in DC, feel free
What?
to send me a
Where do
message.
you
I
get?
would love to. I'm also a nightlife guy,
I'm
so I
coming to
mean,
Tyson's Corner tomorrow, but I
please,
gotta leave. I gotta
please
leave
send
pretty
me a
quick.
DM. Let's have coffee.
Oh,
Let's grab lunch. I would love to show you
let's
around.
go clubbing, my man.
Let's go
Everybody
Please,
clubbing.
follow Omar. I just did.
absolutely.
Uh,
Anytime you guys are in DC, in Tysons, I live in Tysons. I own clubs in Washington DC. So whenever you guys are in town,
are you
please,
serious? I'm there
yes,
all the time. I'll
absolutely,
hit you up. Add me.
absolutely.
I'll
Send
let
me
you
a
back.
DM whenever you're in town. We'll exchange contact
You may
information.
want
I would
to
love to check you guys
you
out.
may want to take Asteroid in for like a little bit of a trim maybe first because he can look like a bit of a homeless guy at times. So you may want to.
I'm
No,
trying not to get robbed. They're
it's
like,
it,
that guy got some cold storage Bitcoin on him.
it's all good, guys. Please DM me anytime any of you is in DC. Please call me, or I mean, send me a
I'll
DM.
be
I mean,
there next
I'm
week.
gonna go
Hey,
to
Omar, I
DC
had you blocked for
specifically
some
just to
reason.
hang out with you, Omar. You sound like fun.
anytime, guys. Anytime. My pleasure. Please.
Omar, this is Puncher. I had you blocked. I can't imagine
I have
why,
no idea
buddy.
why.
Puncher, don't be a
I don't know.
dick. Come on,
Crazy.
man.
I have
What
no idea.
happened? Hey, what happened to you guys?
I have no idea.
Me neither. I don't know. We're not blocked
You know
anymore,
who? You
buddy.
know. You know who else is blocking me, and I've never even talked to him. Fred. I've never even talked to the guy.
What the fuck, Fred?
I've, ne- I've
Jesus.
I've never spoken in any of his spaces. I've never messaged him. I've never commented on any of his posts, and I'm blocked from his
I'll
spaces.
work on that
Yeah.
for you,
All
Omar.
right, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having me.
One thing
What is
I'll
the
What?
deal for the 100K party?
I
Did you get an invitation? I just got mine. It says, come to my mansion. Signed Sailor.
so how do we reconcile? It sounds like there's some. I don't know. I just hate labels like maxis and everything else, but to me it seems like trading or being involved with MSTR or even these different X ones where you're two timesing, like it seems like a plausible strategy, similar to having a really shitty fiat job. So I really think that there could be a way we could reconcile these things where it's not necessarily shame on you, because it seems like there's a lot of shame cast on people that are messing around with these things. But I think if you did it in a responsible manner and don't just throw your whole stack at it, that it shouldn't be frowned on as quite as much. I mean, there was a point when,
Yeah, listen,
yeah,
I I think they're not mutually exclusive, right? Michael's running his
for
business.
sure. Yeah,
Omar
and
has his
honestly,
good.
honestly, can I just
I
weigh in real quick? I
yeah.
actually am giving Michael the benefit of the doubt. So I don't want to
No, of
say
course.
like I'm like 80 to 90% like pro Michael Saylor. So I don't want to be, but
I
I'm not ruling out you guys that are like, oh, he's evil. I'm not saying like
No,
you're
no, no,
wrong.
no,
I'm
no,
just
no.
saying like I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt until he
We're
proves
it
to me
just riffing
otherwise.
here.
So
it
okay, go
doesn't
ahead.
even matter. Why does it
That's true
look?
too. Good
It's
point.
well, the thing is, it's clear. It's pretty clear that it's likely that you're going to make a boatload of money for some period of time. So just go in
What
there,
is money?
print the do re mi, and then sell it and put it in a cold storage.
All right,
You
Yeah,
don't
let's
have to
but
hold it
let
forever.
Punter finish. Let's let Puncher finish his point. Go ahead.
we were talking about scenarios that are like these Six Sigma or these black swan events that happen. And look, it could be true that Sailor's. I believe Sailor's a great guy, and I always have. I don't know the man, but Omar does, and says the guy's awesome, and I believe that. That's the vibe I get from him from day one. But there, there are actors inside of, let's just say, the deep state, right? Who allow things to happen, like to Darkside's point, you know, at the time when Choke Point 2.0 was happening, the ETFs were allowed. Michael Saylor wasn't being harassed by these deep state actors. What accounts for that randomness? It doesn't necessarily mean that Michael was doing anything. It might be that they're making decisions behind the scenes, saying we're going to allow this, we're going to allow that, in anticipation of that. It's kind of like COVID, a little bit. Why was Costco allowed to be open, but every mom and pop was shut down? That there's no rhyme or reason to that, other than there are decision makers who are saying that Planet Fitness, my Planet Fitnesses are closed, yet Costco is open. I mean, fucking, you kidding me? What, you have to wear your mask walking to the dinner table, but then you can take it off. You got to come on the airplane with the mask on, but then when you eat or drink water, you can take it off. What the fuck is that? That's the most ridiculous stuff. But there was a different agenda going on. And if you listen to Joe Rogan and if you listen to Mike Benz, like, oh shit, it was worse than I thought. So I'm not saying it. I'm not articulating it very well. But Michael Saylor doesn't have to be a bad actor at all in this scenario.
I was hoping to close it.
I just gotta say, like, I think it's interesting that CPI came in line today, and the 30-year is the 10 years up, the 30 years up 6 basis points, 10 years up, and even the 2-year is up. I just think that's interesting.
All is well.
Dollars back above 106.
They need to
We
do
got it.
QE. We need to start. We need to restart QE now.
It sure looks like something's brewing.
Why?
Yeah.
Why don't
Yeah.
they? Why don't they just do it?
Can we
Why?
talk about partying again?
Why are they
'Cause
pretending?
I
Why are they
flashed
pretending
back
that this
down to
pilot?
I'm gonna mute that guy because partying sounds like such a better topic here. I was just reminded of Puncher and uh Puncher, who was with us? Like pink shirt guy. Uh oh, I know. We had Eric V. Stacks with us because he brought a stash of Humboldt's finest herb. Uh we were all out. Where did we go? We were in
I,
random places and
I did not inhale.
Which
sure you
day are
did
you
not.
talking about?
Well, both days, because you were the guy coming in day one when we were tearing it up, and then they locked you out because they did think you were a homeless person. But the next night, and then we actually ended up going to Anders' party after. Oh, we even went out after Anders' party because Anders' party closed down at like midnight or something. But
You
anyway,
did.
it just made me.
You did.
Yeah,
Wow. I went to
yeah, it
sleep.
did. No, and then we went out and then closed another place down and then found an after hours place. We had a ball. Wasn't that awesome, Puncher? I just love you guys. Love hanging
It
out with
was
my
fun,
tribe.
but
Yeah.
They
Right.
blew up the sidewalks in Santa Monica at like 8 o'clock at night. Though that was weird.
So what did they do? They go out on the sidewalks and they puff past some of Eric V. Stack's finest and kept the evening going. That was fun. Anyway, it just all this talk of partying made me excited to hang out with the fam again. Super fun. Anyway, back to regularly scheduled programming.
I wonder what kind of partying Michael does.
Well, I know that's Omar is would let us know, I'm sure, because it sounds like he's been there, done that.
Michael likes to go clubbing, and he likes to after party in his yacht. Used to be parked here in Georgetown, so he takes everybody after party into his yacht, usually after the clubbing. But that was a long time ago. He hasn't been doing much of that um, since COVID. He's been spending a lot of time in Miami though. Um in Miami, you'll find him at Komodo. You'll find him at Live. You'll find him at Papi Steak. Those are the areas where he likes to hang out. But he used to be a big party guy, like a big clubbing and party guy.
Me too.
My yacht is in Sea Isle City, New Jersey. It's a 10-foot dinghy, an all-around.
Yeah,
I, I,
guys. I'm gonna tell you a little information. I don't know if you guys used to watch that show, Ballers on HBO. There
Oh
was a,
yeah,
there was an
Usher.
episode that was actually filmed on his yacht, and
Yeah, the Usher, right?
yes. So there was an episode that was way before Bitcoin and or any of that. There was an episode where and that party was held at his best friend's mansion in Miami. The name of the mansion is Villa Terra Veritatis. So that's the house. That's where actually we took that picture.
I wanted to piggyback off what Omar said. Before there's character assassination here, um, I've had two interactions, two times of meeting Michael Saylor. Okay, three. He didn't. Someone accused him of not being able to use a Lightning wallet. All right, and so he put out a meme competition. Said the top three people that get the most likes, I'm going to send you 1,000,000 sats. Somehow, some way, I get a DM from Michael Saylor, and I thought it was a fake account. So I'm laughing. I click on it and like, oh fuck, this guy's got a couple million followers. This is Michael Saylor, and he said, yeah, you want 1,000,000 sats? Send me an invoice, and I will send you, 1,000,000 sats. And I did, and guess what? He actually did it. He sent me 1,000,000 sats. Kept off to the side. Now this is about 6 months before. I don't know if you guys, Andrews and I did a pleb party in Miami, in 2021, maybe 2022. I don't know, but we rented a rooftop movie theater and had what, I don't know, 1,000, no, a couple hundred, 400 people. The thing was, what we wanted was like a chance for all the plebs to meet everyone they always get to talk to or listen to on podcasts. So everyone everyone had been in our podcast, from Booth to Pish, you name it. We just said, hey, look, do you mind? Do you guys want to show up here and hang out with the plebs? And they said, they all, to a fault, said, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, we'll be there. So we rented this place out. Um, we had to sell tickets to help cover the rent cost because I think for that one night it was about $13,000. Now I love the plebs. I don't have $13,000 just to be putting out there, so we sold tickets to help cover that cost. And when everyone was showing up, I remember the DMs I had going with Saylor. So I just wrote to him once. I said, "Hey, Saylor, one of the Cyber Hornets here now. Um, Listen, we're doing a pleb party, and we thought it was cool because our first tranche of tickets we were selling for like only $20.
Bobby, do you
But
have
we
like a Cliff Notes version of this story? Because people are DMing me saying, I've heard Bobby tell this story 6 times. Can you
Omar
like
has it.
speed it up to like a 37-second version?
Okay, 37-second version. Guess what? Guess who was the first
One
person to
minute
show up at the
37. We'll
party?
give you an extra minute.
All right. Guess who the first person
Omar.
was to
Omar showed up.
Nope, not Omar.
Michael.
Michael
Michael
Saylor.
Saylor.
Michael
Yes.
Saylor was the first one to show up at that party, and he was there for 2 hours. Okay, nice guy. He hung out with the plebs. I only asked him one time, "Hey, would you like to stop by?" He just asked, "Where is it?" And he showed up. And then he invited us over to a barbecue on Saturday. And yeah, it's pretty impressive when you walk into somebody's backyard and there's a yacht back there. It's pretty cool.
Omar,
But yeah,
I like the
nice guy,
story.
man.
Don't get me wrong. I
Omar,
love the
I
story. Go
didn't.
ahead, Kate.
When I said Michael Saylor cares about Michael Saylor, what I meant really was not that he doesn't care
Yeah.
about
What
people.
did you mean?
What I meant was that when it comes to money, um, it's gonna be more important than the relationships that are superficial in your life, and people that you don't know. I'm sure he cares about everything as a whole, but it all filters down to how it's going to benefit him. And that's just human nature. It's true for all of us. So I didn't mean it in a way where I'm like, oh, he's just this selfish person, doesn't
Thanks
care
for
about anyone.
clarifying that,
Yeah.
KST. That
No.
yeah.
I understand.
I'll bet you that Michael Saylor really gets mad chicks, huh? Like, man, that
I
guy
I understand.
just has them lined up, huh?
Casey, I
Sorry, go ahead.
understand. I understand what you're saying, but I like me personally, I can only speak about what I know, but everyone is obviously free to have their opinion. There is the generous Ken Griffin, generous Jamie Dimon, generous Lloyd Blankfein, and then there is a generous Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor is one of you guys. He's the same as you guys. He's a normal dude who,
The
believe it or
pleb.
not, he's the kind of guy. If you hang out with him just 5 minutes, you'll see that he's not a material type of guy. Look at the suits that he wears. Look at the ties that he wears. He's not a guy. He's not a flashy guy. He likes,
Wait,
yeah,
how
yeah.
big is his yacht?
Which one?
Yeah, like, uh,
He has a couple. You can
Well,
look it up. It's public
but he's not
information.
flashy. Like,
no,
and
but it's not really about that. It's not. Listen, when you have a lot of money,
Yeah, what would
of
you
course
do?
you're gonna go spend it and have a good time. Uh,
It's an experience
Yeah, of
asset,
course, but
infra.
he's
Come on.
not. He's a guy that's just so intelligent, and he's a very awkward type of guy. If you sit down with him for 5 minutes, you'll see he's an awkward. I know he does a lot of interviews and stuff where he seems on camera that he's like very comfortable and everything when he
No,
talks about
I see
Bitcoin.
the awkwardness for sure.
Yeah,
And
he's very
I
awkward,
agree. Like when you
and
have some money and you want to pay for something that will provide you with a nice experience, it's not necessarily about that you're going to go show it off. It's just that this is the way you like to enjoy your life and you have the money to do it. So,
yeah, and just
Yeah,
so you
no, I
guys know,
totally agree. And
just
we
so
all
you,
like to do different things. Like
yeah,
if I hit those kind of levels, I definitely have a G6, because I enjoy flying. So it's not up to us to shame him for what he's passionate about, investing money in
no.
something that actually brings pleasure to his
Yeah,
life. So
I'm not. I wasn't. I was just
oh
trying
yeah,
to say you can't.
no,
You
no, for
can't
sure.
say he's not flashy.
Right. Yeah, yeah. No,
That
good,
that's
great,
all.
great point. Great
look, he's not
clarification.
Infra,
he's
just
not a
short the
guy.
stock already,
He's
man.
not a guy who drives Lamborghinis and Ferraris. He's a guy who lives in an apartment here in Roslyn, in Arlington, and he could afford to have a mansion in Georgetown, like his buddy Bill. He's a guy who's, yeah, he has a yacht, and it's okay to buy a yacht when when you have a lot of money. But he's a guy who's very intelligent and does a lot of things just for he sees it as a game. He when you talk to him, the way he talks about money is, I want to do what's right in life, and I want to be remembered for my decisions in life. And yeah, if money comes in, it's a bonus. I don't know how to explain this to you guys,
No,
but yeah.
Omar. So like, I think that's a really important point. Like, here's the thing. I personally think that he seems super similar to me and super Asperger's-y, like I am. I think if I met him in real life, I would like love him. I think he's like super. So I see a lot of similarities between someone like him. Not the wealth and the right, all that kind of stuff, but like in terms of like, I don't know, just the other side of
Is
humanity.
Asperger's a word?
Asperger's-y. Yeah.
Asperger's.
I
Say that 10 times real fast.
Asperger's-y. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
No, but like
speaking of somebody who's been on a yacht recently, Grant, hey man, you want to tell
Oh,
us about your
Dark MAGA is here. Dark
yeah.
MAGA.
Yo, hey,
Grant, we would
Omar,
love
how
to
you
hear
doing?
about your yacht experience.
Yeah, well, we once a year we do something for our foundation, and this year we chartered the Ritz Ilma, their newest yacht
Ooh.
added to their fleet, and had about 400 investors and supporters of our foundation and partners out, and raised 6 million, almost $6 million for our kids. So it was
Oh, good
great.
for you guys.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Were you
yeah.
able to spread a little bit of your Or actually, where your Bitcoin slash real estate thing? Is it sold out now, or where does
It's
that
almost,
stand?
almost. We have probably, I don't know, out of 87 million, maybe we probably have it all in commitments already. We just wait for it to come in now. So
Awesome.
the response,
Congratulations, man.
yeah, it took about 80 hours to do it. So the response has been phenomenal.
Sweet. Your brother shared a meme with us the other day. It was you in this little canoe out in the middle.
I saw that,
It
man.
wasn't you. Yeah,
I
we
don't
were
know why
laughing
he was
our asses
ragging
off.
on me like that. I think he was having a memory of us being in a canoe together back in the bayous.
Right? I don't
Um,
know, man. Maybe he can speak on that. He's right next to you there.
Raz
Gary.
and Thomas, did you just we have some people that are waiting to come up on stage. So if anyone is not feeling like
I'll
talking,
drop down.
Hey,
I'll drop down.
Count your
Thanks a lot
awesome.
for your time, guys.
I'll,
Appreciate you.
I'll drop down.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Grant, I wasn't ragging on you. What I was doing was laughing that there are people that have been here for like maybe 8 years and you have an $8,000 down day and they're like, ho hum. And the beginners are like, a 500-day swing when you buy at 97 and then it goes down to it goes down 2 grand. That's somebody's first entry. They get like really shook up. So it's just one of these things that the meme was so beautiful as to just the tuition that you have to pay to really get in Bitcoin and really get comfortable with the waves. And that's what that guy's doing, right? He's just spanking those waves. It's so violent. He's just having a blast. So that it was really I laughed at how many times I was like, man, do I have any clue what I'm doing here? This thing is like all over the place. Now it's just like another day in the park. It's a Wednesday, right?
Right. Tuesday was mini dip day and another day in the park. Charles, welcome to the stage. How are you today, sir? Don't know how much of this space you've been listening to. Charles, try again. We didn't hear you. I saw you went off mute, but we didn't hear anything. I'll try again. Anybody else hear Charles? We might have to try to
Negative.
recycle. Yeah. KST's been a good co-host so
can't
far.
hear him. Oh, thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Negative. Ghost Rider pattern is full. I don't hear.
Yeah, no, I love the meme. I thought it was hilarious too, Gary. When you were talking about it, I had to go take a peek, and I was dying laughing myself because you go through a few of these cycles, and you get the living hell knocked out of you, and you really pucker, and and then watching the dude at the end just flying along on the top of that thing like woohoo! Yeah, I definitely got a good chuckle out of that one.
I laughed for a good 3 hours at just how true it was.
It's crazy if you've been here a while just to see the price swings and just overall numbers. Because when you were kicking down at 4,000 and like a $4,000 swing to the downside, if you're at zero, you're at like $4,000 a day. Like, yeah, what the fuck, whatever Bitcoin. But it was so strange back then. Like you would have like a breaking, like Dennis Porter level breaking emergency uh, type spaces. Hey, Bitcoin went up 200 today. It's just strange to wrap your head around these numbers.
Hey, you know what? I was going to ask the Grant brothers too because they recently hung out with Mr. Saylor. We were talking about him earlier, and then one of the folks in the audience had mentioned that they were friends and was vouching for him personally and being a great guy. And it was really nice to hear their story. What was your experience when you guys got to hang out with Michael recently?
He was a pleasure to be with. Very down
How
to
you
earth.
doing?
Pleasure to be with. Very down to earth.
How
Same
you doing?
same guy that you
Banana.
unlike this idiot. Same guy that you
Yo.
Okay, I'm going to take back all of the praise
Oh
that I
no.
just gave my co-host and say, why aren't you on the
Let
mute?
me let me take
Yeah,
care
mute
of
and
that.
boot. Thank you, thank you. Mute and boot, and sorry about that, Mr. Cardone. We'll get back to you here in a second as soon as KST is able to boot that unwanted speaker here.
He should be gone.
Yeah, so he's the same guy.
Try the unmute again. I think KST
Same,
muted us. Okay,
yeah,
there you are. Yeah.
same guy that you see, telling the story for the last 3 or 4 years about what he believes this space to be.
That's awesome. I mean, for me, I like all of these personal stories because it really dries up any of the, because we were contemplating, could he be a bad actor, blah, blah, blah. But hearing, stories like this, honestly, it validates, my feelings, which is, he's a decent dude. So when you guys, reiterate that, it makes me feel a lot better about him personally.
Gary, what was your takeaway?
Gary jumped back in the kayak and he's
Since
skipping along.
Gary knows
Yeah.
how to navigate the rapids.
Yeah.
Look, I get nervous. I get nervous as if the winds change in any direction. So I'm hoping the Fed's going to surprise the whole world and drop rates a half a point because he knows the entire world is in recession and that America is probably weaker than it actually looks. And they're just collecting a bunch of data that says we had 2.7, but we probably didn't because most of these numbers are lagging. I know rents across the country are soft. Home sales freaking is a standstill. Automotive new and used car loans have alarming delinquencies, and people are using credit cards for everything they purchase right now.
Yeah, Grant, I think you're going to get that 50 basis points surprise, just personally.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it would be a good step forward for the new administration too to show his. I think the FBI director Ray dropped out today. Is walking out today. So
Yeah, he announced his resignation. Yep, he sure did.
yeah.
Hey, Grant, your project in Space Coast down in Florida, the Bitcoin project, how far along are you in terms of the completion of the financing?
Well, I closed on December 15th, and I think that we'll have, what is today, the 11th? I mean, we announced it 4 or 5 days ago, last week, and I think we'll have 100% of it committed to.
Well, I thought you were going to self-finance it and then resell the shares after the close.
Yeah, but I already have commitments for who wants in on it. So this will be the fastest raise we've ever done. I will close with my funds just because it's clean, it's nice and clean, and then we just bring it back to the market at the same price that I paid for it.
So
So it
does it
doesn't.
surprise you that it's the fastest growing? I mean, what do you make of that?
Yeah, it does. It does. What surprised me is the investors that are coming in. Most don't have any Bitcoin exposure, um, and they're highly, highly interested. They love the concept of how I'm doing it. That gives them the safeguard of the volatility. That hey, worst case here is my real estate's going to still be there. We're not going to lose that. So, and there's a whole bunch of other exits here. So
It feels like what you're doing here is sort of like not unlike what Sailor's doing with the convertible debt. You're basically doing the convertible real estate structure
yeah.
and giving people the downside protection with the fact that the real estate and the rents are going to be going to set the floor. So, are you starting any more projects as a result of this rapid raise?
I have 4 more right behind this. So.
What's your limiting factor? Is it getting acquisition of good properties, land?
No, because we've been extremely active. We bought almost $500 million worth of assets this year with all cash in great locations. So there's the potential to go back and do those. I have 15,000 units, 6,000 of which I own. I'm the owner of, and I could get the assets, man. I mean, I have the institutions are sidelined right now. Starwood's not buying. Blackstone says they are, but they're not. All the big guys, the stuff I buy is institutional quality. They're all sidelined right now. They have redemption issues. Their funds aren't built like this.
Sorry about that.
KST, you're gonna be fired. I'm just kidding.
Bro. the-
She accidentally muted again.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so I was just saying the institutions are all sidelined. There's tremendous retreatment in price in the institutional, in the multifamily space, not the single family. So the opportunity is not going to be in single family here. It's definitely going to be in the big cash flow multifamily stuff where most of the pressure is, not the small deals, but the bigger deals. So we think we have a nice little formula here that people will respond to, and I just need to prove 2 or 3 of these out, and then 2 or 3 will become 10, and then we'll take it and probably bring it to the marketplace and upread it and go public with it.
10x.
10x, man. 10x is the movement.
So another conversation we had, you're for the most part your portfolio is regional, and you had aspirations to go national. Do you think you could take this sort of as a franchise play where you're doing this structure and then taking it more nationwide or beyond the region you're currently in?
Yeah, yes, and no. I mean, this stuff doesn't move. Like I could run into a portfolio along the way. So that would be the next thing, to buy somebody else that's my size and double the portfolio, which could happen. I mean, look, there's going to be, you got to believe there's other products going to come out of this. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac cannot do Bitcoin mortgages, but somebody's going to do them. I met with the number 6 mortgage lender in the country 2 days ago. He was on the boat with me, and there's a lot of interest in how to create a hybrid mortgage.
That's interesting. I think there are actually a couple of companies that have been doing Bitcoin mortgages for a couple of years. I'm actually a realtor, um, and I feel like right now, because of the lawsuit that just happened, I think there's a lot of like, it feels like someone just threw the puzzle up in the air and waiting for the pieces to land, especially because the guy who um, procured the lawsuit is now trying to create his own sort of entity regarding buyers needing to see homes, and wanting to kind of create a thing where it's like, okay, for $100 you can go see this home, this home, this home. You don't even need a buyer's agent. So I feel like there's a lot of changes that are happening in the industry and that are going to be happening in the industry for the next year. But I almost feel like the resale market is they're trying to make the resale market corporate. And I did work for a corporate builder for years, and it feels very similar to the changes that they made once COVID hit. So I don't know. I am sort of turned off by the real estate market right now.
What's the market like where you're at, KST? I think I know where you're at, but I'm not gonna dox you.
Yeah, it's like the summer was very slow. It freaked out a lot of realtors here in the area, but I find that summers have always been slow. And again, it is up to the individual and what you put into it. And if you can hustle and meet a lot of people and connect with a lot of people, you're going to get business. Um, but it's like not too many realtors do that.
What
So
kind
right.
of pricing is like, standard homes and whatnot in your area?
I saw a lot of price adjustments over the summer. I saw a lot of I saw a lot of homes priced. Really, it seemed like they were just kind of throwing the number out there and not super sure of where the pricing was because all the buyers sort of disappeared. So it seemed like a lot of listing agents didn't really know what to price the homes at. So I did see a lot of price reductions. And
What's the average
uh,
like 3 bedroom, 2 bath house in your area go for?
Oh gosh, here it depends. Like I live in an area where, like I live in a town or I live in a city where the price point is much more expensive than the town over, which is virtually connected. So if you're looking at a house in the town next to me, probably I'm going to say 450 to 650 for that size, but here in my town, it's going to be over a million, like one to probably 1.2.
Did anybody else lose KST?
I think you just stopped talking. That's all.
No, did you hear? Yeah, I just stopped talking.
Oh, okay.
I said
Um,
I left off at 1 to 1.2. And so then you have a lot of people in this area that could be just straight cash buyers. And the FHA limits were raised in this area to quite high. So it does enable people to purchase homes that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to a couple years ago. Um, but
I,
it's still
I
not like a super hot market at all. But it's just kind of a
traditionally, yes. I'm gonna cut to Darkside, but before I go there, I know Gary's back in here, as is Grant. Um, One of the other groups that I'm associated with is talking about going like a day early, maybe to the Vegas event and hanging out together, maybe renting a space. Gary and Grant, you guys should come down and hang out with the Bitcoin homies before the Bitcoin event in Vegas in May. So just throwing that out there, trying to get that idea in your brains.
Where is that event?
Um, the actual Bitcoin Magazine event, I'm not sure. It's probably
Venetian. It's the
uh,
Venetian in Vegas.
yeah, the Venetian ballroom back there was the Sands Expo Hall.
Oh,
But I'm not really as stoked about that as I am about hanging out with like a more select group of the Bitcoin clan the day before. So put that into your just pencil
that's
that in
awesome.
or put
Yeah,
it
I'll look at that. That's May,
in
right?
your memory banks. Yeah, in May. So I think
Yeah.
that'll be a great
Can I
time.
go back? Can I just go back a
Yeah, yeah,
second
yeah. Go
about
back.
the
Hit the rewind button, and
KST?
then we'll go to Darkside because I think he wanted to say something too. So go ahead, Grant, and then we'll go to Darkside.
Regarding the housing thing, because I was in a room this morning and somebody was talking about correction in housing. Guys, houses, the average home in America is 440. They can come down 10%. They won't, by the way. It only that does not fix the housing problem in this country, and that is it's unaffordable for a mortgage. The only thing that fixes this, okay, the only way prices come down is when interest rates come down. Interest rates do not drive home prices downward. You can't find one time in 50 years, go back 70 years if you want, as interest rates go up, prices still stabilize, they do not come down. If you bring the price of a home down $40,000 from 440 to 400, it changes the payment on the house $200. Interest rates have to come down from from the 7% they're at today. I think it's 7 3/8. They need to get down to the 5% range all in, maybe below that, in order for somebody to actually get rid of where they're living. It is move ups that drive home sales, not first time home buyers. That's why you're seeing new homes are selling right now, but existing homes do not sell because the 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 builders are providing buy down in the rates to make the loans affordable and appetizing. But the 70% of the people out there that have a loan on a home, 70% of all the mortgages in this country are set at 4% or below for the next 27 years. So we're not going to have a housing correction in this country until the Fed forces the 10-year to come down. Like he has to go so low on short term that the 10-year has to follow. And I think at 4%, then you start getting the people that are stuck in their house say, okay, I'll reduce mine by 40 grand because they want to go buy something else that they can now afford.
So Grant, I'd just say, like they can try as hard as they want to get it down the longer end of the curve, like mortgages are priced off, but you know, the fiscal situation, the debt to the entire picture is such that like rates could go up.
Hey,
on the
Imtra,
long
can we
end.
get? We've been waiting for poor Darkside. He's been trying to get a comment in here for a while now. Darkside, sorry, buddy.
Hey, no worries. Thanks, Lauren. Hey, Grant. I just want to say that I spoke to your team on Monday. I'm going to definitely participate, albeit small, but I'm going to participate in the Melbourne project. And I just wanted to give my reasoning, right? Like, I think it's super important that we support projects that expand the reach of Bitcoin, right? The ability to tap into new high net worth, new institutional investors that haven't had a taste of the success of the CAGR is so important. And what Grant's doing is so important to our network and what we're trying to do in the Bitcoin community that I thought it was kind of like almost necessary to chip in and be a part of the project. And then just to add to that, I have experience down in the Space Coast. I had an office down in Melbourne Beach and in Melbourne. And that area is just super dynamic. There's more engineers per square mile in the Space Coast than anywhere in the country. So the property's got location going for it. But to go back to what Grant's doing, the ability, this community is not that big. The high net worth and institutional investor community, there's 6 degrees of separation. And once there's a project out there that's showing and proving success, it's gonna spread and it's gonna help us all. So hats off to you, Grant.
Hey,
I'm
thank you.
excited to be part of the
Yeah,
team.
it's been interesting, and I appreciate your support on this because I've always believed. Okay, I didn't think the Bitcoin. This is not to meant to be demeaning, but I'm like, okay, the money's not going to really come from this space. It's going to come from people that aren't invested yet, but it would be awesome to see this small group support projects like this, like you guys that are supporting Mike do what he's doing, proving it out, validating it, having other people come in, taking his time to go pitch his thesis to other companies. That's what gets broad groundswell consensus, and it makes all of us win. Gary's talked about this a lot about you have to broaden the base. Religions die because the congregation keeps talking to the congregation rather than bringing new people in. And if
Oh
it,
man.
yeah,
Hey, speaking of Gary, he's got his hand up. Maybe we should
Yeah.
let him speak. Hey,
Hey,
Gary.
thank you very much. One, I just want to commend that was Darkside for his position because look, this is very mature. I mean, like Coinbase, for instance. I know people rag on Coinbase, but I've done a lot of business with Coinbase, and my reasoning was this. They spend a shitload of money defending you and I against the SEC. You can, determine whatever their motivations are, but their shareholders and their board really stood firm. And I support, like, I would encourage all you guys not to look so much at price right now, but support the people that are actually doing really good things. Okay, that is much more important. If you could save $400 or $5,000 on a trade, like, in the big scheme, I mean, 1 or 2%. Just for me, it's I give business to people that I trust, I like, I understand what they're doing. On the second comment, so I really appreciate what you say. I think it's just a mature, very mature view. Um, I would encourage all you guys to repost, post it, talk to people about this. Okay, this is a very big deal. Grant and I were on a call today with a very large institution, and because I would probably, I wish I could have gotten Grant around this sooner. I mean, like Grant and I are very similar in that we have to be really start to get a sense of, okay, I'm starting to really understand this, and I want to plow into this. See, I do 10 of these at one time. I think I do 10 $100 million deals, like hit this thing very hard. I actually disagree with Grant. I think there are some serious Bitcoin holders who this program is going to evolve. And I think it'll evolve very rapidly. And I think there are some very large Bitcoin holders that it behooves them and their family to move into this asset class if they can buy it correctly, number one. And I do believe my brother can probably buy it as good as anybody I know. He'll buy it better than I can. He's got all the contacts. Um, then the
Yeah, I
second
think
thing is,
Coin.
The
Sorry, go
second
ahead.
thing
Finish.
is I think just having a very different sculpted kind of asset stream, um, it's going to give people a lot more power, lending power, collateral power. Hey, I got 10,000 Bitcoin. Hey, I got 9,000 Bitcoin, and I own 14,000 apartment buildings. I mean, that sounds better to me. Okay, I think it probably is better for the long term. So I just would ask everybody to look at this. We're going to get in on the ground floor in this thing, man. Here's another
Yeah,
ground floor front run opportunity that I cannot believe how many front runs we get on this thing. To me, that's the great trade here. We're so early. So this institution was jacked up at it. Let me in there.
yeah. Oh, I think Darkside was coming off mute there. We're gonna let Darkside interject, and then maybe Joe after Darkside. Darkside.
No, I actually had nothing to add, but I just agree with what Gary said. I think the network knock-on effect of more high net worth institutional investors coming into the Bitcoin space helps every one of us, and that's why I kind of decided to dip my toe in the water.
Yeah, I see Joe Na is going thumbs down. So, Pubby, get your mute button handy. No, I'm just kidding. Joe Na, it sounds like, or it looks like, just from your expressions of thumbs down, maybe you have a, contrary opinion. What are you thinking?
Yes. Hello, Lauren, Pubby,
Howdy.
KST, everybody on panel. How you doing today? I am here to say I could give two fucks about the millionaires, these big ass corporations, and if they are blessed with the opportunity to understand Bitcoin, then that's to their benefit and only to their benefit. And if not, this train is leaving without them. Heart emoji,
That's
GFY.
right. That's great. I love it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. We love to hear everybody's perspectives. There's a lot to learn from everybody. I don't know where
Yeah, well,
he went.
Lauren, I just to address that,
Yeah, yeah, no, go
we
ahead.
would not be where we are today without the support of some very wealthy people forming the crypto lobby, right, pushing for the agenda of the little guy. So, this is one of those rare situations where Bitcoin doesn't care about your net worth, right? Bitcoin cares about making the world a better place. And I think that to try to put some type of, us versus them agenda into Bitcoin is a mistake. I think we want adoption across the spectrum. We definitely want the little guy to get off zero, but we also
For sure.
we're going to need high net worth, and we're going to need institutions to come in and adopt. And the more they do, the more it benefits everybody across the spectrum.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the whole Bitcoin IQ test scenario where this is an opportunity where the little guy can actually save his value over time and actually, pull himself out of the rat race, pull himself out of that shit job that he hates. So I think there's not a lot of opportunities like this over people's lifetimes, and Bitcoin is definitely one of those opportunities to actually pull yourself out of that kind of a shit show.
This
Hey,
is this is absolutely right, and this is where the conversation should be going. I did have a question for Grant, maybe representing the real estate field, and Gary representing sort of the Bitcoin field on this moving forward. Because what we're seeing coming out of France, we get what do we have now? What $36 trillion national debt? An attack vector that I'm just keeping an eye on is this thing called unrealized gains. That's a scary damn thing. It's something that I never thought would ever come to fruition. But I'm looking at this now, and I know uh, some politicians have talked about this. You're seeing it in France, especially like on Bitcoin and other crypto. An unrealized gains tax there, but also on real estate. Like you said, Grant, some of us are locked in, at a 2.6% rate. Okay. Um, Most people aren't going to get out of there, and they turn it into a us versus them. You can't buy a house because these people got a great rate and you didn't. I didn't know Do you see this as an attack vector? This unrealized capital gains tax in both industries.
Well, Trump said no. I know you're not asking me, Pubby, but Trump said no unrealized capital gains tax on Bitcoin. And what's his face? Gensler is retiring in January. So I'm
But how would
not.
that even look? I mean,
Well,
how would
Trump, Trump, Trump.
Gensler would have no say over capital gains. Look, can I just address this? Because, look, France is broke. If you want to live in France and you want all that no capital gains or capital gains, go get it. But like these, this is ridiculous. Okay, you would bankrupt everyone. I mean that like literally they would people would begin selling everything to generate cash to pay the government. That's just not going to fly. That goes against everything we're seeing from this administration. Um, so, and I personally believe you're going to have capital gains on Bitcoin. You have capital gains on everything else. Now, we would be smart maybe to have a little kind of like property in exchange, but you're going to have to pay some. Look, Bitcoin's not going to escape taxation, guys. It's not real, right? And why would we want it to? We don't want subsidies.
No, I'm talking about if they try to incorporate an unrealized
Yeah,
capital
yeah, but
gains.
dude,
That's
like you would sell
Never.
everything. It'll never happen, man. It's just like pulling
You,
the plug out of a bathtub full of
you,
Bitcoin. I mean,
you got
just
a better chance of Donald Trump going to a flat zero than you do him doing unrealized
yeah.
capital
There you
gains.
go.
That's just not going to happen. You're going to get 1031s are going to be back, 100% bonus depreciation he'll bring back in. He'll probably bring the bonus depreciation for airplanes, maybe even bring it back for yachts. He fucking hates the IRS. So uh, their new products
And
are
he
going to be,
wants to stimulate business.
yeah,
And this is the way
exactly.
you do it, okay? Like you give me a grant opportunity to defray, a shitload of money. And to the man that says, hey, I don't care, this is what I really wanted to say about the rich guys or the companies. First off, like I don't talk to you that way. I don't say, hey, we don't care about the guy that's working at Home Depot or wherever, right? Like, first off, I don't say that to anyone. Secondly, guys, if you don't want the smartest money in the world, the people that build highways and schools and people like what we want is people of action. There's millionaires and billionaires on this call today that are I people don't have to be here. Like these are guys of action. And I see a lot of very wealthy people sticking their neck out for Bitcoin right now. We should be embracing these people, not offending them. Like I want to feel like I'm pulling my weight, just like if you discovered Bitcoin in 2013, dude, I acknowledge the shit out of you. I mean, I think it's awesome. But it takes a whole team, right? So we're Team Bitcoin. I just wanted to say that because I think it's really, really important that a small group of refugees is not going to get us to $100 trillion industry. Just not going to happen.
Hey, I have a quick question. Can I jump in?
Surely, sorry, I missed a bunch of that. I was on another call. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I guess, to Gary or Grant, how do they see the housing market I don't know if you guys talked about that before I came, but do you think? I've heard that the housing market looks like it's about to crash. I don't know how big of a crash, but just wondering if you guys, beings that you guys are commercial real estate mongols, if you could give me a little insight on that.
Well, we hit this a little bit, but in my little humble viewpoint, there's not going to be any. If you're waiting for a housing crash, it ain't going to happen. You need a mortgage problem for there to be a housing crash. Real estate falls because of debt problems, not because of housing problems. So we don't have a debt problem in single family homes in this country. If we have a problem, it's because 70% of the loans are below 3%. But I don't see that as a problem. Now,
What do you think about?
contrary to what
Oh, sorry.
Infra was saying, I'd love to hear what he was saying about the long bond, which I don't quite wrap my head around. You know, the whole understanding of who's buying these bonds. But I thought like 70% of our bonds are owned by us. 30% or less are owned by the rest of the world. So this is all bullshit anyway. We own all this paper. So if they wanted them to be lower, if there was a mandate for lower, and I'd love to hear from Emperor. I know what he's saying about like if the Fed goes to zero, pretend they go to zero. There's no way it doesn't drag that 10-year down with it, unless there's
Yeah, I think
zero interest. Unless there's zero interest from the rest of the world. At which point I'd ask, is their debt better than our debt? Like I would rather. I don't know what Greece's debt is or France's debt is, but I would still rather $36 trillion of debt in America than any amount of debt in those other countries.
yeah, I think maybe Darkside
What?
can speak to the bond things because I think Infra is probably working or doing something else. I think he dropped as a speaker, but we're trying to get him back up here. But Darkside, thoughts on the
Yeah,
bond?
yeah. I mean, so Infra's point is that the bond markets of the world are broken, and that we could see the front end get cut and the long end accelerate up. Personally, yeah, that absolutely can happen. But to Grant's point, that just leads to yield curve control, QE, whatever you want to call it, where they start buying the long end and selling the short end. Look, it makes sense in this respect, right? Is that if you had your choice of loaning the US government money short term or long term, which would you take? Right. And the answer is you'd loan money to a bankrupt entity short term, but not long term. So that's where you end up with a lack of demand for the long end of the curve. But again, the political pressures as they are, you'll simply see another QE, another expansion of the Fed balance sheet, the forcing down of the long end of the curve, to make interest rates and mortgages affordable because of political climate's going to demand it. So, I think that's where we're headed. I think both parties are right. I think Infra's right that the demand's not going to be there. But then again, I think Grant's right in that we have to bring the long end of the curve down to stimulate the housing market and to stimulate economic growth because you know we are much weaker. To Grant's point, things are much weaker around the world and here than anybody thinks, right? And the income inequality gap gets closed, at least at the margins, when you bring the long end of the curve down, and that's what the
Yeah.
Fed will do.
Hey, we were able to get Infra back up, so before I go to him, I think we're gonna try to end this space in about 10 or 15 minutes. So just give everybody a heads up. It's been amazing as usual. Love all of the contributors, all the gray matter in the room. It's awesome. Infra, I don't know if you were listening in or not when.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll let
yeah,
you
I
take
heard.
the floor. Yeah.
Well, uh, yeah, I think it's an order of operations thing. I mean, in September they cut 50 basis points, and in the month following, the 10-year was up 60, 65 up. So I think that for the foreseeable future, um, you know the first move is probably going to be up in the long bond, but then like Darkside was referring to, and I agree, it's a necessity for them to either do some kind of quasi yield curve control, maybe you know uh, continued reforms through the banks, to get the banks to buy them, or maybe it's explicit yield curve control like what we did after World War II, the last time debt to GDP was this high. Like they need negative real rates badly. This degree of positive real rates is quickly, I don't want to use the term bankrupting, but it's causing an acute fiscal crisis. So they need negative real rates. I don't know how they're going to do it. It could be through QE. Fed balance sheet could go to 25 trillion. Like I don't know how it looks, but the first move in the long bond will likely be up, just like we've seen over the past 45-ish 50 days, however long it's been. The first move will be up in yield, probably, as the bond market kind of the bond vigilantes come out and go, you know, we're it's not there is always a clearing price. Like, I'm not saying that there's going to be failed auctions or anything. There's always a clearing price, but it might be 5% on the 10-year. But before, the Fed can't allow that sort of thing. Once it starts, I don't know what the level is. I don't know if it's 5 on the 10-year, 5 on the 10-year, 6. I don't know what it is, but over 100% of tax receipts already are going to mandatory spending already. So interest is already 20% of tax receipts. I always say it, but like if we were in Africa or Asia, the IMF would be sending in, the the blue helmets would be walking down the streets, and there'd be debt reorganization talks and stuff. 20% of our revenue is going just to interest to service the debt. Like, it's already kind of acute, is what I'm trying to say. So, if rates go too much higher from here, it's inevitable that they come in and smash them down somehow. I don't know how that looks, but
Good to have Puncher
You,
back. Hey,
you,
Puncher, you got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry guys. I got in a discussion with someone a little over a week ago, and I said I kind of articulated some of the things that we've just been talking about on this space, and I said, look, nobody wants to buy our long-term bonds anymore, and why would you? That's return-free risk for whoever buys them. And they said, no, China buys our bonds, and I said, I don't think so. I don't think China's bought a long-term U.S. Treasury since 2014. It peaked in 2011, I think, and it's been declining dramatically since 2018. But I wasn't sure. And this guy was, you're crazy. They're still buying our bonds. The whole world needs our bonds. And I wasn't secure enough in my information. But does anybody know? Am I close on that?
so yeah, the net on net, their holding, their foreign reserve holdings haven't been increasing, but there's some, and I'm not 100% clear on this. There is some disagreement on that data that you'll see. There's some disagreement about whether that's like, if you look at TLT, it's been getting crushed. But that doesn't mean, like, bonds are weird in that, if you hold it to maturity, it pays out, and then it pays a coupon. It's fine, right? There is no loss of value if you hold it to maturity. But on the secondary, on the, like, off the run kind of secondary market, it does have value, and that's been falling precipitously on the long bond for a while. So there's some disagreement about, and I don't have 100% clarity. There is some disagreement on, like, those charts that you see of the holdings. Is that the mark to market value, right? Like, but on the other hand, right, like, we mark to market, or we mark to par all the regional banks bond holdings, because the Fed encouraged them to buy all this long-term debt at 50 basis points, and then they took rates to 5.3, and all that stuff was 70% down, mark to market. So they just said, no, we're going to market to par, and
Yeah, well, that was
everything,
bank term
just
funding program. That was the fake it
exactly,
till you
yeah,
make it. But
yeah.
otherwise we would have had cascading collapses. But I was just curious as to active purchasing from. I know Japan and China were the largest holders, but I don't think China has bought a long-term treasury from us in over a decade. That's
well,
alarming.
yeah, a lot of that, Puncher, is that we're really not issuing them. I think I just pulled it up. The new supply of 10-year bonds was $10.8 billion out of trillions and trillions of dollars in refinancing. So we're just not selling them because there's no demand for them. So, again,
so
both
maybe
parties are right.
Oh,
maybe that's part of
hey,
Trump's tariff. Maybe it's, hey, China, you're going to buy our bonds again.
yeah, I totally forgot. There was a $40 billion 10-year auction today. That's probably why yields were up. It probably did not go well. Let me look
Big
and see
big
how the,
tail on that, right?
yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see.
There's no one going to mention Tether.
Yeah, I mean, Tether's not going to buy long-term debt. Again, the real play here is to issue short-term debt and then to have the Fed buy the long-term debt to support the long end of the curve. That's where we're headed. I don't see any other way around it. You're not going to get investors to go out 10 years with the US government while it's running $2 trillion deficits and fighting endless foreign wars.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically like payday. We're financing ourselves via payday loans at the short end.
That's encouraging.
We got a couple new speakers, Richard and Michael. If you guys want to interject, just throw your hand up. We're assuming when you come on stage, you have something to interject. So just throw your hand up if you can't get a word in. I know we cut off one of the Cardone bros, so I don't know which one of you guys was going to say something right around the same time as Puncher, but the floor is yours.
What I was saying was maybe part of Trump's influence on China is, hey, part of the tariff is you're going to buy our bonds. So if you go back to 2008, the 10-year treasury was exactly where it is today. Then we admit to the problem in the housing thing, and that thing crashes like overnight to a 2% or something. It would still take another 2 years to free this thing up. So a black swan event can drive these bonds down. Like they can, unless I don't fully understand this thing. It becomes very complicated, which for me it's either very complicated or there's so many lies involved in money that. And again, a great story for Bitcoin, but there's so many lies involved in who owns it, who enforces the price on it. And I know at the end of the day it's supply and demand, but it seems like there's times when there's no demand and the price still drops when it comes to money.
Well, when you
Yeah,
issue it and then buy it, I mean that's a self-licking lollipop.
yeah, there's a lot to it. It almost seems like sometimes they want to keep it confusing on purpose. Because they have more control over us. Can somebody explain? It seems I've been reading some comments and getting some messages about the interaction with Tether. You're saying, Darkside, that they don't buy any long-term bonds. What
Yeah.
is the? Can you explain that relationship just for clarity for
Yeah.
me and
So
some
like
other listeners?
they just buy bills, because so think of it this way: there are bonds, there are government bonds that are as short as like a week, all the way out to 30 years. So the maturity, the term of the bond varies widely from very very short, just a couple days, all the way out to 30 years. The shorter the duration of the bond, the more money like it is. So a bill, which is a shorter bond, I think it's under 3 or 6 months is the technical definition. Those are more money like. The
Up to
bond,
up to 12 months up to 12 months for
up
a
to
bill.
12 months. Yeah. So and then note is after that, and then bond is technically only like the longer duration stuff. But the
20,
shorter the
20 year
key
plus
is
per bond.
the shorter the duration, the more money like it is. Because think of it this way, right? Like you pull out a dollar bill and it says Federal Reserve note. Essentially, that dollar is just a bond, a liability of the Federal Reserve that pays 0% interest and has no duration. That's all our currency is. It's a bond with zero duration and zero interest. And so when you have when you the shorter the duration is, the more money like, the more cash like, the more liquid, and the higher the velocity of that bond, because the bonds are the collateral for which so much money is created. Like if you're in a money market fund, that's all bills, that's all shorter duration. Because if you think about it, it's not really an investment to lock up your money for a month or a couple of weeks or whatever. You're not worried about interest rate, inflation risk and this and that. Like it's hey, 30-day, lock up your money for 30 days, you'll get this interest rate, and it's not, there's not as much convexity to it. When you start going out the longer duration stuff, there's much more convexity, because a way I try to explain it is like if I had an IOU and it said I'll pay you, 5%, and I'll pay you the $100 back and 5% in 30 days. And then I had another IOU and it was, I'll pay you 5%, but it's for 30 years. And then they take the rate to zero. Which one is right? It's an order of magnitude situation because the IOU for 30 years, you're locking in that they both pay you 5%, but one is for 30 years. So that's called convexity. And so the longer end of the yield curve has convexity. There's much more considerations to be taken kind of with the
Thanks,
long end.
Infra. You explained that very, very well. Thanks a lot. We'll let Thomas weigh in now. Thomas.
I just posted in the Nest. You can see it. I just learned how to do that like 2 days ago. Anyway, I just posted on the Nest the long-term 10-year Treasury for the U.S. And if you pull it up and you're able to look at it, I mean, you can see the Volcker years back in the early 80s when it was pretty spiking up, and the 10-year was up over 15%, and it stabilized in Reagan's second term. It's the stabilization channel started probably around, let's call it 9%, and then went down steadily. There's been it was obviously chops up and down, but if you zoom out, you see a down channel all the way to zero, and we get just above zero. It was like I think it bottomed out probably around dot 2 and dot 3%, right at the beginning of around COVID timeframe, and then they just started hitting the amount of money created. I mean, if you look at like what happened with M2 money supply, you can see a noticeable spike up here, and now we're in this reversal trend. And the thing is, most people have built their entire careers in the financial world in terms of their paradigm and what they think about economics over this period of time. This is a 40-year chart. And so people who came out of college who are basically retiring now, they started in this channel and have retired in this channel, and now we're out of the channel and it's a new game. So I think we have this real structural issue where Infra's been talking about that if they cut the short term rates without addressing the inflation issue, then the bond vigilantes or the market, for lack of a better term, is not going to take the long term credit at a lower rate. They're actually going to require more, just because you would too. Would you loan the government at 4% for 20 or 30 years? I don't know anybody who would do that. So someone's doing it. And the only reason they're doing it is because they have to, as part of I think Grant mentioned as part of a coercion, as part of a tariff scheme. There's a whole bunch of reasons, but it'll be artificial to bring it down. So I do think we're in a quandary. If we don't get the long-term rates down, home ownership is going to be an unattainable outcome for, let's call it, the back half of the bell curve. Those people are not going to be, they're going to be permanent renters, and it's going to change the characteristics of society if that happens. We want home ownership. It really kind of defines Americanism. But anyway, take a look at that long-term chart I posted in the Nest, and you can see, we really are in a different world, the different one that most of us have all grown up in.
Yeah, and Thomas, just real quick, those people that have studied demographics like Peter Turchin and Neil Howe, they found that interest rates move in these secular cycles about 70 to 80 years. So the chart that you posted, like there's hundreds, if not thousands of years showing that sovereign debt interest rates actually move in these mega, 70, 80, 90-year cycles.
Let's let Jamie from across the pond weigh in. Jamie.
Hey, thanks, Lauren. Thanks, everyone. Really interesting conversation tonight. I just noticed as you guys started talking about bonds, Jason Shapiro and Andy Constant both posted about today's 10-year Treasury auction, which went very well. Andy Constant graded it A, So the tail can't have been that bad for Andy to give it an A. And Jason Shapiro's got good stuff to say about it as well. So today's auction went well, and I think following on from what Thomas was just saying, this is probably largely people who are still stuck in the last 40 years of trend, thinking the trend will continue, and this is a false breakout from that channel since it's been going on for 40 years or something. But there seems to be more and more people now getting on board the regime change narrative, which I mean, it's
Yeah,
a narrative. I don't
I
mean that, but it's been people have been talking about this since just after COVID, like Jem Carson. Who else? I can't think now. There's several people have been talking about this since COVID. That was the bottom in the 10-year. Now treasuries are not a long-term investment. You can trade them, but not invest in them for long term because another one, financial repression. Oh God, I can't remember his name. Scottish chap does a lot of work on financial repression and how real yields will be kept suppressed, whilst nominal yields fool bondholders into thinking they're getting a real yield.
I know who you're talking about. He's excellent, by the way.
He is excellent. I can't remember his name. It's really annoying.
But you're right. You're right that I pulled up the results of this, and it actually had the highest bid to cover since
Yeah.
2016.
I mean, for Andy Constant to give it an A, that's a good auction.
Yeah, but my point, it's still sold off, right? The yield is still up 4 basis points.
And it's people stuck in the last 40 years thinking nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it has changed, and things are different now.
Gentlemen, probably I can chime in here. Lawrence, thanks for having me. And Infra, it's definitely how you said. I hope you can hear me. There's an interview between Preston Pish and the CFO or CEO of Tether, and it's exactly how you described. They would never touch anything with probably even longer than 3 months when it comes to bonds and interest rates, right? But I actually have a different question for the room. And the question is, which sector in the States is actually adding most of the counterparty risk to everybody? Is it commercialized real estate? Is it the education scam? Or is it the banking? Here over in Europe, at least in Germany, I can tell you it's the energy market. Because we do not know how to figure out to get the energy prices down enough so that we can stay competitive with the rest of the world with what we're doing. I just read or heard an article when it comes to all this green energy, okay? When we do not have wind, we import the energy from France and other countries where we have to buy it. And when we have too much of it supplied to the grid, we pay a penalty because nobody can take the energy because the market is already saturated. So I would definitely say over here in Germany, probably not whole Europe, but the energy market is adding most counterparty risk currently with the whole situation Ukraine and on. So how is it in the States? Which sector is adding actually most of that?
I would say derivatives. Darkside probably has a better answer or maybe can confirm, but I would think derivatives.
Maybe private credit.
I'll go with zero reserve banking. I think that the massive undercapitalization of our commercial banks is what lends to the most counterparty risk. Obviously, derivatives and all the others are knock-on effects to that problem.
The dark side, we're going back and forth here, but this mark-to-maturity accounting gives counterparty risk assessment a false sense of calm. So as I'm assessing my counterparty and they're doing mark-to-maturity and not doing mark-to-market on their portfolio, I may think they're in good health and they're not. And if they're not, then I'm not. And then my counterparties on the other side are not. And it just cascades through.
Yeah, mark to maturity accounting is a joke, right? And it's all part of a broken system. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, potential black swan unwind events. You can put mark to maturity accounting as being maybe the biggest driver. As I noted, as I tweeted about your chart, what you have to understand about that chart is that over the last 10 years, if you've bought a 10-year bond, almost all of those bonds are underwater. And if you had to sell them today, you would sell them at a loss,
Well,
right? So
that's
the
what
only
happened to Silicon. So what happened to Silicon Valley Bank last year?
Yeah, so to that point, right, you've created a structure where whenever a large a large player at a particular bank wants to take that bank out, they can, right? Like if Peter Thiel wanted to take down some large regional bank and pull all his money out and have his friends pull all their money out, it's over because they'd be forced to liquidate their holdings and take the losses. So we have a very fragile system, and at some point, fragility will show itself.
And to that point, the reserve requirement, it used to be, I don't know, 5, 10, 12%, something like that. During COVID, they removed the reserve requirement, took it to 0%. And as of a couple days ago, when I last checked, it is still 0%. The banks are not really required to keep any of your money. So
It's actually less than zero because of the mark to maturity phenomenon, that they're allowed to calculate losses as assets, which is crazy. So
yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
Well, maybe we can take this little lull and close her down. It's been
Just,
awesome.
just one other
Jamie, did
thing.
you want to interject something before we
Just
leave?
one other thing.
Sure.
Russell Napier is the person. If you want to learn about financial repression, Russell Napier and Jem Carson, both of them talk about it in different ways, but they are both really good if you want to understand what is going to happen over the next few decades. In my opinion, Russell Napier absolutely nails it.
Russell Napier. Let's give maybe people on the stage some last words too. If Grant wants to say some goodbyes, pitch your real estate / Bitcoin deal. Infra, Thomas, anybody up on stage want to say
Yeah, I'll say goodbye.
last words?
I'll
Yeah.
say goodbye to everybody. If you want information on the fund that I'm doing, it's cardonecapital.com/Bitcoin. And just one last comment about the bonds, right? Like the chart on the bonds from the Reagan era. If I take Sailor's ability to get money for 3 years as zero and throw that into the mix, is this going to be a creation of new products? Because again, this is a new idea, a new way to basically create fiat to buy something more substantial. But it's just another, let's face it, it's another gimmick based on paper and confidence and futures.
For sure. Yeah. Darkside, Thomas, Infra, anybody want to have some
Yeah,
parting words?
I would just say with all the risks that everyone talked about, they're pretty much all like extremely positive for Bitcoin. So, and I would also say Napier is excellent. So, I'd also recommend people listen.
Awesome. I know we got Cosmo in at the end. I think he was busy trying to cram some work in
yeah, I would say this: the
before
next date
Christmas.
people should keep aware of is this Friday. They make the formal announcement of MSTR and the QQQ.
Oh, good call.
So
Yeah.
just pay attention to that. I think the market's priced in an inclusion. If there is, it's not 100%. If it is rejected, I would expect to see a drawdown in MSTR price. Probably not
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, that would make sense. I also want to give a shout out to my co-host Pubby and KST. You guys did great, with the exception maybe of a little vetting there in the middle. So, other bit of a joke, but yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. KST, Pubby, you guys want to say parting words?
Buy Bitcoin.
Buy and buy. BUY and BYE. Pubby is probably ordering his 5th beer right now. So cheers, Pubby. And thanks a lot, everybody. I personally, I get so much out of these. I'm the dumb guy in the room. So I definitely appreciate
No,
all of
I
you.
am.
I don't think so.
I'm dumber than you.
Yeah, no, no. I really just want to just say how much I appreciate everybody for contributing. I know we're not getting paid and whatnot, but it's we're sacrificing our time so that we can better the community, and this is the way it's done, man. This is how we win. This is how we take the power back to the people. And thank God for technologies like Bitcoin that we're able to exchange value without anybody looking over our shoulder or having to dictate everything we do. So awesome, guys. Talk soon. Have a great rest of your day. See you later.